Takes about 15 seconds. We're live.
Okay. All right, Mayor, I think we're ready to go for the 8 o'clock Town Council meeting on September 8th.
All right, good evening, everybody. Adequate notice of this meeting, as required by the Open Public Meetings Act, was provided through the posting, mailing, and filing of the annual notice of regular scheduled meetings of the Town Council on December 11, 2019. The notice was, on that date, posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, provided to the Westfield Leader in the Star Ledger, and filed with the clerk of the town of Westfield. Mrs. Rowley, may I have a roll call?
Mayor Brindle,
Here.
Council members Habagood,
Here.
Parmalee,
Here.
LaGrippo,
Here.
Katz,
Here.
Mackey,
Here.
Contract,
Here.
Tardia,
Here.
Boyce.
Here.
Thank you. Now I'll ask everybody to stand up for a salute to our flag. I pledge of allegiance
To the flag, United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty.
with liberty, justice for all.
All right, thank you. So Jim, I think we'll start off with you.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have a lot of stuff tonight, a big meeting, a couple of quick things from me. So the agenda, as you all know, was revised, as we indicated might happen on Friday. We have two late additions to the agenda tonight, which basically are, we went out to requests for proposals, a public request for production services for Adams Fest Haunted Trail event. We did get a responder, so we're excited about that. That's on the agenda tonight to award that contract to a company to provide a haunted house, socially distanced, COVID-19 related Adams Fest event for us, which we're excited about. And I want to thank the two chiefs and Greg O'Neill as well, who walked around with Dawn Mackey and her team to kind of think about how we can do something outside the box for Adams Fest. So this is gonna be a nice opportunity, which is great. So that's on the agenda tonight, as well as liquor license renewals. As you know, the state of New Jersey pushed back the dates for renewals for licenses. So this month, we're in the process of getting those documents in place for the various restaurants that hold liquor licenses. And so tonight, a large portion, not all of them, but a large portion of the restaurants had their documentation in to be renewed. And we expect the remainder will be on that agenda for September 22nd. So those are the two additions to the agenda. Everything else was as sent. Couple quick things I want to talk about with events coming up. Again, back to the idea of socially distanced, COVID-friendly events. We're trying to get back, of course, knowing full well that things can change if things were, if cases were to spike. But right now, two things, really actually three things the Green Team has been involved in. We have the free market event, which was scheduled, I think, for the spring, which we held off, is now going to be rescheduled for Saturday, September 26th, between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. at the Southside train station lot. And this, again, is a free market event. So part of the day is where you go and drop off things. Part of the day is where you come and pick up things. It was successful last year, very much so. I know that the Green Team's been looking forward to do it again. So right now, that's scheduled again, September 26th. It's a Saturday. And again, unless something changes with the pandemic, we're excited to have that event. I'm sure, David, do you have any other things to add to that?
No, it's just to help residents with fall cleaning, and it will be fully socially distanced. Masks will be required, but we're separating the drop off and the pickup to spread the crowds out. And we will only allow one person per table to pick things up.
Good, that's great.
Jim, actually, I got an inquiry today. Someone was asking if we can plan to do the bulk pickup this year. My guess is no, but any updates on that?
Well, let me, no, the bulk pickup is not scheduled for this year. But let me just get through the other events real quick. So the Green Team's also planning another park cleanup. which we again had previously scheduled this year, had held it off. So on Sunday, October 11th, is a park cleanup. Usually it's a morning hours. It's being done, I think this year, Tamaqua and Brightwood. And so that's another event. More details will be coming out on that, but that's something we rescheduled. Again, mask required, socially distanced, and it'll be nice to get some general cleanup there. Also, this is a combination event, and part of this is related to what's on the agenda tonight. We have a resolution on the agenda tonight, which is for our first truly permanently marked bike lane. That came out of the bike and pedestrian plan from last year. There's a section of Prospect Street leading to the downtown between West Dudley and East Broad Street, which is going to be marked as a shared lane, which was recommended in the report. So that's going to be memorialized tonight. And that really kicks off our implementation of the bike plan and pedestrian plan. That's really going to be rolling out a bunch of things over the next number of years, both internally for the town and also grant requests we have pending. In addition to the marking of the bike lane this month, the Green Team and the Downtown West Corporation and the town are partnering for a pop-up bike lane program for one weekend, the weekend of October 3rd, 4th, to partner with the DWC on that event they're doing that weekend, which I believe is called the Food Stroll. So we have an opportunity to have people going on a marked bike lane. Actually, the marked bike lane will be on Upper Prospect, we're calling it, from West Dudley up to around Lincoln Avenue. They'll be marked with cones and temporary signage for the weekend, so people can learn about how a bike lane functions, how it may look, and then it leads to the permanently marked shared bike lane that leads to the downtown. And it'll be an event that is in coordination and marketed together with DWC's Food Stroll. So again, more information to come on that, but exciting opportunity to not only do something permanently for bike lanes, but also get the pop-up and proof of concept together. And then I'm sure we'll have many more things coming for bike lanes. And one other thing to mention is another project that's been in the works for some time, rain garden installation. So Tamaqua Park, after we partnered with Rutgers University last year, they did a couple analysis for us on various properties, not only municipal properties, school properties as well, had a bunch of recommendations. So we're really acting upon the first recommendation they had to do a pretty substantial rain garden in Tamaqua Park in the center of the park, adjacent to the parking lot. We've been working with Rutgers the past number of months. We've also worked with the girls track team, who's actually helped us. We're beginning a process to raise funds to support money for buying plants and other things for the rain garden. And they'll also be helping with volunteer hours out there planting with Green Team members and other just community volunteers. So we expect the rain garden will begin the process with Rutgers professional supervising us in the next couple of weeks of digging out the area. And then during the month of September and October, hopefully we'll be able to dig it out, refill it, design it properly, do plantings. And then we'll see how we will beautifying an area of the park there, but also putting in something that we hope will be an educational tool for not just the town for doing other properties, but also the schools and residents that can come by and see how a rain garden works, what it might look like, and maybe duplicate it on their own property. So lots of good things happening. There's a lot more things happening. The mayor has a long update tonight, but it's a lot of good things and we have a big agenda. But so I guess I'll just get right to the mayor's comments and unless anyone has any questions.
Jim, real quick, I've been receiving inquiries regarding the storm debris from the August 4th storm. So is it just we're going to wait for leaf collection? Because a lot of residents still have debris in the streets and residents are concerned about pedestrian walking, cars. So is there any plan in the way of that debris in the road?
So the debris pickup basically was the town debris, obviously, that we were picking up is mostly done. People can still and have still been contacting us through the Safe Lake Fix, the Westfield Connect app. Mr. O'Neill's been going out looking at various piles, determining if it's town debris or not. We do expect for people to be notified starting later this week if there's debris in front of their home. If they have to take care of it on their own, because we do not want debris in the street before leaf collection if we can avoid it, which is coming up only a matter of a month away. So that process of notification will be starting probably later this week.
All right, great. And just real quick, Adams Fest, we didn't discuss that in our code review meeting. What's the cost on the haunted house, I guess you said?
It's a haunted trail program, a drive-through haunted trail on Tamaulipas Park. And the RFP we received today, which is in the resolution you received, $24,500, which will be paid for out of all the funds previously raised by Adams Fest in past years.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Jim, very much. So yes, good evening. And again, thanks to everybody for joining us virtually. And as a reminder, any comments can only be accepted via Zoom. So if you're watching on Facebook or anything like that and have a comment or question, please log in via the Zoom link. And we do have a lot going on. I'm going to try and truncate some of the update, but first regarding COVID, today they announced that there's 194,667 confirmed cases in New Jersey. 307 are under investigation, and Union County has 17,238. In Westfield, we were reporting 4 new cases since my last update on Friday. We had 2 on Saturday, 0 on Sunday, 2 on Monday, and 0 today. So our total is 372 since our first reported case in March. I got some questions. We had reported two of the cases we reported last week were from college students out of state. And I just remind everybody is that we get reports of cases based upon their permanent address. So even if they're out of state, if they listed Westfield as a home address, they count it as part of the Westfield count. But I do think it's important to note to make that distinction, because we obviously keep an eye on Westfield, real Westfield cases to manage community spread. So that's, and hopefully we won't be seeing any more college students, but you never know. Today, Governor Murphy added Delaware, Maryland, Ohio, and West Virginia to the quarantine states list and removed Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. So there's 35 states on the list. And a reminder that the voter registration deadline is Tuesday, October 13th. And there's an online voter registration form up and running. And so you can go on to the New Jersey Governor State Elections website. And you could also track your mail-in ballot, which is obviously, I think, going to be really important this election in particular. I want to remind everybody that on Friday at 6 p.m., we're going to have our annual remembrance ceremony at the 9/11 Memorial. We're going to be joined by several community faith leaders to reflect on those tragic events of 9/11 and the 12 Westfield residents who were lost. So like any public gathering, we want to make sure you wear your face covering, and we will ensure that everyone is maintaining social distancing. And we will be live streaming it as well. So if you are most comfortable staying at home, it'll be live stream for everybody to see. I want to let everybody know that the library is now open at 9:30 each morning, and they've begun partial use of the computers, so which is a good next step. And there is a very full agenda tonight, which I want to touch on a few of the things that are going to be addressed. We are, in spite of this pandemic and Zoom calls and everything else, we are making incredible progress in a lot of areas. I think most people know by now that tonight is the second reading of the Historic Preservation Ordinance. And in response to a lot of very constructive resident feedback, we introduced a revised version of the ordinance last month, which also had the added benefit of providing additional time for public input. So in addition to incorporating many of the comments that were provided at the last 2 meetings and addressing them, we've also gotten calls, and me and members of the HPC and other council members have been fielded all our emails and phone calls to collect feedback and hopefully provide clarity on what is understandably a very complex piece of legislation. I do think ultimately we found a very balanced and sensible approach to preserving our historic homes and the concerns of property owners. I know I've said before, I recognize that for some this is not politically popular, but its intent is supported by many, and it's consistent with the commitment I made along with many other members of this council to make historic preservation a priority. And I think time will prove itself out that it is going to operate and act as intended. This ordinance will ensure that going forward, we have some sensible review processes in place before we lose any more of our historically significant buildings to tear downs. And there's going to be an opportunity to comment on that later. And additionally tonight, but very importantly, as a companion to the revised historic preservation ordinance And in response to many of the suggestions we've received, we are voting on a resolution that will ultimately enable the town to provide 5-year tax abatements on the value of improvements to historically designated homes. Similar to the process that we just went through for our downtown, we will be voting on a resolution referring a townwide area in need of rehabilitation study to the planning board for review. And after that process, an ordinance will then be drafted that would apply the area in need of rehab designation to only historically designated homes to allow for the tax abatement, providing further incentive for property owners to consider voluntarily designating the historic homes that meet the historic preservation criteria. And this was, we heard from a lot, is like, what is the carrot for designating our homes? And I hope that we've been able to extend the same benefit that we've given our downtown property owners to restore their properties to also the historically designated property owners as well. So as Jim mentioned, tonight we're going to hear from Recreation Commissioner, Commission Member Brad Rothenberg. Brad's also chair of the Parks Committee of the Recreation Commission, and he's going to update us on a variety of initiatives, including the Edison School Field Project, Sycamore Playground, and some also other general parks updates, including the much discussed Brightwood Park bike paths. That's a mouthful. We are also, as Jim mentioned, we've got a resolution about shared bike lanes, which I think is incredibly important as more and more people are out riding bikes, and hopefully that's a trend and habit that will continue way past this pandemic. And on the road paving front, I don't think Jim mentioned it, but we are awarding a contract for the resurfacing of Scotch Plains Avenue. And much of it is being offset by a trust fund grant. And I do think it's very notable that in spite of our budget cuts, we are currently on track to pave just over 7 miles of roadway this year, both through town and county projects and those completed by Elizabethtown Gas, due to the ordinance that we passed last year. So, so the good news is we're still making progress on roads, and hopefully to really double down on it next year when hopefully this pandemic is behind us. And we also are going to be voting on a resolution to award a contract for the crossing guard management services. As you know, last year we outsourced crossing guard services to All City Management Services. They've been a great partner. It was tricky when we started, and we knew they told us it would be, and it was, but I think we found a really good rhythm by the end of the year, just in time for schools to be closed. But they have, already done a great job in terms of coming up with a program for how we're going to provide crossing guard services in this hybrid learning environment that we have in most cases. So I think Linda, I think, can elaborate on that later if need be. Sorry, I've got dogs in the background. I also want to note that as POW MIA Remembrance Day approaches on September 18th, the council is also going to be formally recognizing this day via resolution to honor the many servicemen and women who are gone but not forgotten. I want to thank the council because my dad is one of those MIA servicemen, so this was very important to me, and I want to thank them for their support in passing this resolution. And finally, regarding school, yes, we do have another school year, unlike no other, getting underway this week. I do want to thank the health department for their ongoing work, and our regional health department director, Megan Avalone, has been all over this, working with the Board of Ed to prepare for the return of students. In a year like no other, teachers, administrators, parents, and students are doing more than ever to adapt to this uncertainty. It's not easy for anyone, and we're all going to be navigating this new normal together. And talking to Megan earlier today, we did talk about a process to ensure that we have daily updates regarding any school-related COVID cases to make sure that we can respond quickly if necessary to mitigate any community spread. It sounds like the Board of Ed and the schools have a very good process in place, but we'll be incredibly transparent and very proactive about it. But as we have seen over the past 6 months, I have no doubt our community, and in particular our parents, teachers, and students will once again rise to the occasion to ensure the best outcome for all. And I do want to remind everybody just before we get to tonight's business agenda that I will once again be enforcing Robert's rules. In Zoom, it has seemed to become even increasingly more important to maintain some order and to ensure that we stay on topic and the meeting runs efficiently. Any comments that are not relevant to the particular business being discussed should be deferred to after council committee reports and not in this meeting. The public will only be allowed to comment during the public comment portion, either for a specific ordinance or later in the general comment portion, but can speak only once on a particular topic. So I do have an obligation to manage the council meetings, and will do all that I can to ensure that we stay on topic and on time this evening. So thank you all in advance for your cooperation and understanding on that. And I think before we get in the agenda, I'm going to hand it off to Brad. There you are, Brad, to give your parks update before we get into the meeting. So thank you, Brad, for being here.
Terrific. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Gilday. As you mentioned, I chair the Parks and Field Committee on the Westfield Recreation Commission. I thank you for giving me an opportunity to provide you with an update on where things stand with progress on the parks and fields. As a reminder to everybody of how we got here, the town, in partnership with its consultants, the Rec Commission, and a steering committee made up of members of the town administration, the Rec Commission, the Board of Ed, and county government, spent much of the 2019 embarking on a process to develop our first Parks and Recreation Master Plan. This process included online surveys, mail surveys, in-person events to gather public input, and meetings with a large number of interest groups. The output of this process was a thorough plan that laid out an ambitious 10-year agenda to improve the facilities offered in town. The plan was presented to and ratified by the Recreation Commission earlier this year, and was then presented to and approved by this council before being moved to the planning board, where it was added to the town's master plan. Following this, the council asked the Recreation Commission to review the plan and come up with an initial list of prioritized projects that attempted to maximize impact on a wide variety of users while keeping the cost of the prioritized projects to a reasonable level. These priorities were presented to this group in a conference session shortly before the quarantine began. After a short pause while the administration and residents adjusted to the quarantine challenges, the Recreation Commission got back to work in an attempt to make progress on these priorities. With this in mind, I'll give you an update on most of those priorities that were in the initial prioritization. One of those prioritized projects was for the town to create an overall plan for its parks to comply with ADA standards. This is especially exciting and important given that we've just recently marked the 30-year anniversary of the passing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I believe in tonight's meeting agenda, there's a request to approve an application to the county for a matching grant to fund the development of this ADA plan. And when completed, it will help ensure that we have a strategy to maximize accessibility of our facilities. Another project that was already on the drawing board prior to our prioritization was the Sycamore Playground project. I believe also in tonight's agenda is a Finance Committee resolution to authorize additional funds for the completion of this renovation. The project was originally approved by you at an August meeting, but had not been previously reviewed for design by the Recreation Commission. Upon review, we realized the original design called only for play structures designed for the youngest children. The majority of the commission members felt pretty strongly that it was important to add an additional structure for older children, and asked for a pause to the plan and a revision to the approved plan. Given that once built, the neighborhood will be left with whatever is left put there for a long period of time. So the new plan that has been presented will create a playground that is usable by a greater number of children from that neighborhood. And we appreciate the administration's willingness to accept a slight delay in the project's completion, and we hope that you'll approve the additional funds being requested tonight. Another of the major projects that we recommended moving on was the Edison Schools turf fields project. The master plan suggested turf field complexes in several sites, including both Memorial Park and Edison School. It was the opinion of the commission, after carefully reviewing the plans, that prioritizing Edison would have the greatest impact on the town's field capacity, while also providing an upgraded facility for the schools. This project began with the forming of a steering committee that includes members of the town administration, the Recreation Commission, and the school administration and Board of Ed. And that committee recommended the hiring of architects to design a plan for this facility, as well as to address any needed DEP approvals. The council approved that recommendation, and work is currently underway. The designers have already met with various user groups from town sports leagues and school users, including the marching band director, athletic director, and the school principal. We anticipate presenting designs to this group before the end of the year, and the project has already shown a great deal of cooperation between the school leadership and the town, and could provide a roadmap for further collaboration down the road. Another of the recommended projects was some of the recommendations for work in Tamaqua Park. So there are several things going on in that site. First, as I believe you've mentioned at some of the prior town council meetings, the work has been completed on a wetlands delineation study for Tamaqua, which shows that up to 7 acres of land could be usable for facilities improvements. I want to clarify and point out that the area that we're talking about, this 7 acres, is the land between the Park Loop and Lambert's Mill Road. starting with the area right to the right when you enter the park from Lambert's Mill Road. So the areas currently used for walking trails, cross-country course, et cetera, are not part of the 7 acres under discussion. And once the wetland study gets a final approval from the state DEP, the town can begin considering possible uses for this land, which is currently unused space. A few other items at Tamaqua. The DPW, working with Councilwoman Mackey and a team of volunteer Boy Scouts and residents, has repaired the picnic structure, cleaned and repainted the structures nearby, cleared brush and added a path to the structure, and we will soon be getting new tables and grills for that area. Other improvements may be added nearby in the future to further enhance this area that had fallen into disrepair. In addition, a group of volunteers led by Councilman Katz and Dardia have painted the tennis wall near the courts, improving its look. And so still some other things under what, that might be done in Tamaqua Park, but that's a good start. Another of the prioritized projects was the parking and bathroom project at Sid Fay Houlihan Fields. That plan called for expanding the parking lot of this heavily used facility, as well as adding a bathroom and ADA accessibility. The town is currently considering design options and possible funding structures to accelerate completion of this project, which would greatly improve safety and enhance the user experience of those fields. Another project we recommended moving on was Brightwood Park. The much discussed Brightwood Park project. The master plan called for a number of improvements to Brightwood Park, many of which were connected to nature uses. One of these proposals was to create multi-use dirt trails in the park. There's a great deal of misinformation circulating about these plans, as biking is already an allowed use in Brightwood, and there are already trails being used for this purpose. The proposed plan is to partner with a volunteer organization that specializes in trail design in order to convert the crude trail network to a better planned and more sustainable trail path. To be clear, the trails being proposed will be 100% natural trails. No concrete or other construction materials would be used. As part of the proposed plan, the existing gravel trail that encircles the pond would no longer allow biking. Brightwood Park has become overrun with invasive plant species, with deer being the biggest cause, and better trails will be one small step in slowing the spread of the invasives. The plan is still in its early feasibility stages, and the town will be requesting a letter of interpretation from the state to determine what approvals may or may not be needed if it chooses to move forward with this project. And the last of the recommended prioritized projects was Windsor Park Playground. And we anticipate beginning work on that playground once we finish up with Sycamore Playground this year. We will be seeking input from the residents near Windsor Park on what kind of design needs and what things would meet their community needs in that area. And one final update, not from the parks plan prioritization, is that we have received notice that the Westfield rink does intend to open for operations this fall winter utilizing new COVID protocols. Stay tuned for more information as we get closer to its opening, but it'll be exciting to still have this fun and healthy outdoor recreational opportunity available for our residents. That wraps it up for my update. I hope you're as excited as I am to see that we are making progress, and I thank you for allowing me to provide you with this update.
Brad, I just want to add that Sycamore Playground, we're doing an area dedicated to Terry DeFalco.
Yes.
So I've been working with the residents, Manor Park and the DeFalco family, along with Jim. Jim, we're still on target for October for the playground at Sycamore?
Yeah,
Yes.
this was only really a 2-week delay to change out some equipment, as Brad mentioned. So if this resolution is adopted tonight, it is expected that the equipment will be ordered this week. And we hope that we'll have everything in, and we'll be still on track for late fall installation of the playground, as well as the DeFalco Memorial Gardens and so forth there.
Okay, great. Because I know the Manor Park residents are excited for this to happen in October. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks a lot, Brad.
Thank you, Brad, very much. Appreciate the
Thank you,
update.
Brad.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, so moving on, there are 4 advertised hearings tonight. Sorry, I'm taking over Tara's job. Sorry, Tara, that's you.
Yep, 4 advertised hearings tonight. The first is for General Ordinance number 2183 as amended, an ordinance establishing an Historic Preservation Commission and providing for the designation and preservation of historic districts and historic landmarks in the town of Westfield. Anyone wish to be heard on General Ordinance number 2183? Please virtually raise your hand to make your comment and be sure to include your name and address for the record.
I'm just waiting to see if anyone raises their hand, Mayor. Again, if you want to speak on this ordinance, you can raise your hand now. We'll call upon you. Okay, we have first person, Mark Rhodes. Mark, are you there? Go ahead, Mark.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Sure. Name and address, please.
Yes, Mark Rhodes, 10 Webster Place, Westfield.
Thank you.
If I could just take 3 minutes of your time, I appreciate that. Mayor Brindle and the Town Council, I understand that you have your reasons for wanting to pass Resolution 2183. You have a vision for how Westfield should look, and this regulation gives you the power to implement that vision. It also gives future Westfield leaders the power to implement their vision for Westfield, whatever that vision may be. However, I strenuously object to this resolution on the basic premise that the government is imposing its will at the expense of a basic right of its citizens, the right to own property, and to improve or sell that property as they see fit. Currently, any homeowner may voluntarily submit their home for historic designation, but it is abhorrent to me that our local government may designate a home as historic and limit how it may be improved or sold, all without the homeowner's consent. You say now that we would never take the step of acting without homeowners' consent, but there are no guarantees that you or even future Westfield leaders 5, 10, 15 years in the future won't act to designate any old home or even every old home as historic in order to implement their vision of what Westfield should look like. As written, this resolution places too much discretion into the government's hands that can significantly impair the property rights of many Westfielders. For the sake of your constituents, please do not pass this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. We have Courtney Shale. Mrs. Shale, you're there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, name and address, please.
Courtney Shale, 511 Summit Avenue, Westfield, New Jersey.
Good, thanks.
So about the ordinance, I know there's been a lot of concern about the timing and how this is being proposed and passed during COVID, when there's a lot of limitation as to the information that people have and the ability to meet publicly. And I'm not going to repeat all those comments that people have made over the past few months, because I think you all have heard them and ignored them. But I also wanted to point out that not only is the information the public getting very limited, but the information that has been disseminated by the town and the councilman and the mayor and the Historic Preservation Committee is very misleading. It's not complete, and at times it's completely false. I can give you many, many examples, but that would take at least an hour. So for now, I'll just give you a few. Councilman Contract, in a very scathing letter to the editor of Tap into Westfield, criticized Councilman LaGrippo for disseminating false information about the ordinance. And he did a fact check. And in that fact check, Councilman Contract says, don't worry, you only need a certificate of appropriateness if you're changing the front of your house. He said changes, quote, on the sides of your house, not facing the street, don't require a certificate of appropriateness. Well, I'm not a land use lawyer, but it took me about 5 minutes to look up the statute and determine that that was completely false. The statute says that if you can see, it defines a facade as any single vantage point. So that means if you could see the back of the house from the street, that would be included. If you could see the front, that's included. If you could see the sides, that's included. So his statement was completely false. I then looked through the town meeting notes and found that the town attorney had a different view. The town attorney's view was anything that can be seen from the street is going to be subject to a certificate of appropriateness. Well, the ordinance doesn't really say that either. So I sent a question to the Historic Preservation Commission asking which in fact was true and which was false. And their response was, well, it's the way the town attorney described it. So in other words, Mr. Contract blatantly gave false information to the public, claiming that Councilman LaGrippo gave false information, which was not the case at all. And then the Historic Preservation Committee says they're going to add the word public into the statute. And I guess because they don't consider that an amendment, changing the wording, they don't have to send that out to be vetted again. So they're just going to slip that word public in. I don't think that really cures the problem because it still talks about a single vantage point, which arguably means, you know, they can pick one for each application, they can pick one point to look at. So I could say, okay, you pick a spot and that you get one spot to pick. So if you want to pick a side in the front, that's fine, but you can't pick two sides in the front because you only get one single public vantage point. So my point is the statute is still ambiguous. The council is submitting false information to the public. One of my other questions was, okay, I've read that this has been vetted, highly vetted, the statute, and outside attorneys have been consulted. So I asked, okay, well, who are the outside attorneys that missed a very important definition that drives the entire statute and is completely ambiguous? And according to the Historic Preservation Committee, there were no outside attorneys consulted on this. And as Mayor Brindle, you described this a complex piece of legislation that's being enacted. So I know it's been worked on a lot by the council members, and I know the council members work hard, but the council members aren't lawyers. They're not legislators. They have very little experience drafting and enacting statutes. And with all the money the town spends on outside consultants for things like evaluating the conference rooms in the town hall, I'm very concerned that the town never thought maybe we should bring in a land use lawyer who specializes in this and pay them for 20 hours of time to actually look at the ordinance and look at the concerns that the residents are having. That's very concerning to me. It's also very concerning to me when the Historic Preservation Commission puts out, quote, facts and talks about things like how the statute is widely supported in the town. In fact, they said that according to the master plan survey, 80% of respondents agreed to this, that historic preservation was very important. That's what they said. What they neglected to mention was that survey of 80% of the town was only responded to by 447 people out of, 30,000? So it was basically 1% of the town responded and said that historic preservation was important. But of those people who responded, 33% of them said, I wouldn't let my house be designated. So of the people who supported preservation, they certainly did not support it by a statute that would allow the town to designate their homes without their consent. But that's not included in the historic preservation facts, only the facts that they want to put in that are good for them. It's not a fair presentation at all. And I constantly heard from everyone, the mayor, the councilman, the Historic Preservation Commission, we have no intent of enforcing this statute against homeowners without their consent. Well, that's all well and good, but that doesn't hold up in a court of law. So you're going to have the authority. And if the question that comes to my mind is, if you don't intend to use the statute, why enact it? And I tell you, that's a question that's been bothering me for months. Why would they go through this and enact this statute? So what, the Historic Preservation Commission can get $100,000 in grants? I kept bothering me. Why would they do this? And then it finally occurred to me, because my sister has recently tried to sell her property in Westfield. And the first question buyers have is, oh, is it going to be subject to the historic ordinance, preservation ordinance? That's the first question. That's, everybody wants to know that. So basically, even if you never designate a home as historic, no builder is going to touch, approach, or even come near a house that was built before 1930. You basically are chilling the market for all of those homeowners with houses built before 1930. No builder's going to bother. Why would they? There's plenty of houses in Westfield to tear down without having to get involved in this nonsense with doing a demo permit and seeing if it's going to be designated. So
Hey, Michelle, I just want to let you know you're running out of time. So if you want to, I don't know if you have a closing statement.
you know what? My closing statement, Mayor Brundle, is this statute is unfair. And it doesn't matter if it only affects It affects whole neighborhoods. If it affects 120 houses, it doesn't matter if it only affects one homeowner. It's not fair because people have lived here for decades. They've raised their children here. They've paid their taxes for decades. Now they're looking to retire. If they lose $1 of equity in their house because of this ordinance, it's not fair. It doesn't matter if it's one homeowner or 100. Even one homeowner who bought their house when this ordinance was not in effect.
I'm sorry, you're out of time. So, but thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Stephen. Stephen, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, for name and address.
Stephen Lowe, 116 Mark
You're cutting out a bit, Stephen.
Street. Everybody can hear me? Can you hear me now?
You're
Well-
better now, yes.
Okay. I've lived in this town for 30 years, and obviously I like it. And my main concern, of course, well, not of course, but is this historical preservation. We have a lot of great old homes in this town. There are many. This idea of ripping down homes and that we have a reputation of a tear down town, I've never heard that. It seems to me it's been created. We have a lot of beautiful new homes. We have a lot of ugly new homes. We have a lot of beautiful old homes. And there's a lot of ugly old homes in this town. Some of them do need to be torn down. The cost of rehabbing these homes is extraordinary. The foundation, it probably wouldn't pass any of the electric and the plumbing, the roofing, and the insulation to maintain them. But my main concern is the fact that a small group of people can force a designation on a home and a homeowner. I encourage that town to maintain old homes, but no one should be forced into a designation they don't want. Additionally, reading through Ordinance 2178, which is the solar energy ordinance, I found a paragraph in there, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but if your home or you have a home in a district that's designated historic, you cannot put solar panels on the front of your house. So that's a serious designation, especially for somebody who really wants to do it, can afford to do it, and is thinking green, which has become a big problem, obviously, for our country and around the world. And if we're really going to move forward, we should be thinking that way, not the reverse of restricting solar panels. So I'd like to thank you for listening. And again, most important thing is no small group of people should be allowed to force a homeowner to designate what his home should be like. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Can you
Thank you.
just give us your address again?
116 Marlborough Street.
Thank you. Okay, we have Mr. Gary Siegel. Gary, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, name and address, please.
Sure. It's Gary Siegel. I'm at 266 East Dudley Avenue.
Good.
And I just want to thank the council and the board for helping us out here. First, let me start by thanking Linda Hapgood and Tom Jardine. They spent a lot of time with me and my neighbors to try to really understand this ordinance. As it's been said by others, it's a complex issue, and there is a lot of disingenuous communication coming from all parties, including the council. Anyway, I've spent hours trying to read and understand the ordinance. I'm here speaking this evening because I felt it would be valuable for the council and the HPC to hear from an owner of a historic home that is against the changes in this ordinance. Let me set some context. Our home, which we've owned since 1999, is on the list of 120. I won't go too far into it, but the property and the home, which was built in 1906, has some historic significance, which is why it's on the list. In 2005, we renovated and restored the home, and in 2009, Jennifer and I were awarded the Harry Devlin Historic Preservation in recognition of the preservation, restoration, and revitalization of the architectural integrity of our home. We loved getting that award, by the way. At the time we did our renovation, we did consider designation, and we chose not to pursue it at that time. And there were just too many obligations and constraints that it would place on us, as many have said earlier on this Zoom call. At this time, our position remains exactly the same. We are simply not interested in having our home designated. While we are for historic preservation in general, and our actions and decisions related to our home display that commitment without the need for designation, we're against the ordinance. Here's why. It's, as others have said, it's an overreach on rights to personal property and has been stated by others. I just can't understand why it's reasonable for an ordinance to be on the books which can designate my home as historic without my consent. We understand the rhetoric from the current town administration that there is not current intent to just start designating homes without homeowner consent. After multiple discussions with the town attorney, I don't understand why that intent can't be written into the ordinance, or why the ordinance can't be written that involuntary designation will only be triggered by a demolition permit request. I have to be honest with you, this ordinance seems like a done deal. There is a train rolling down the tracks. So I'm just going to close as follows. Mayor Brindle, your letter dated August 6th, 2020, which, by the way, I received at my home, I assume at taxpayer expense, twice via the United States Postal Service, says that an owner of one of the 120 properties, we will be asked to consider voluntary designation in collaboration with the HPC. I'll make it easy for you in the HPC. Just put us down right now. We're not interested. No. And Mayor Brindle, your letter on August 6th further states that the town does not intend to exercise its power to designate properties as historic without homeowners' consent. I expect that the mayor and the council and future councils will keep your word on both of those points. Thank you very much.
Can you hear us?
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hi. My name's Kathy O'Gara and Dave Borden is here. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We live on at 625 Westfield Avenue. And I've been a resident here in Westfield for 16 years, and I love the concept of historical preservation. I was very excited about the conversation, but I've been concerned about the difficulty in getting information. I see references to old documents, like a 2008 list. It's been so difficult for me to find that type of information. And sometimes I go to Facebook to find information, which doesn't make a lot of sense, being that I live in a house that's on the list. We bought the house back in January, and we're unaware that our house was on this list. And it was really kind of roundabout that we found out that our house was on the list. And we love historical preservation. We plan on keeping our home preserved. But we have questions and concerns, and it's been challenging to get answers to the questions. The references to the 2008 list, there's a bigger list or a larger list of homes, and some of those homes aren't on that list anymore. I'm not sure why. And maybe Dave, I'll let you take over.
Yeah, similar. It's been confusing. And it appears that some of the language in the ordinance is either conflicting or subjective and hard to follow, which raises concerns about future implementation and the ability to confidently know what needs to be applied for, what's a major, what's a minor. Again, there's quite a few interpretive kinds of definitions. And then I think the other thing is what Kathy was talking about was, as we look at the proposed list, the map that's been provided, I think, I'm not sure my math is right, it's about 1% of the homes in Westfield, if the numbers are right. There are homes within, like literally next door to us, 2 doors away from us, that are not on the list, that I've seen to be even older and even more immaculate in some ways, and definitely historic, that are not on the list. So it's really unclear what's going on around homes that have been selected, to be on the proposed list. Those that have not been selected, there's a home in Westfield that's almost like a twin of ours that's not on the list. And so it's really unclear, kind of what criteria is being used now. And obviously that begs the question on what criteria may be used in the future, given this kind of uncertainty on the way the ordinance is written, the way it's being applied, which then leads to what might it look like in the future. And so just a lot of concerns about the confusion and the subjectivity of the process that we've seen so far.
Yeah, and I would love to find out why certain homes were on that older list and are no longer on the list. So maybe if I could find someone to email and get those answers to, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have, thank you. We have Eileen Blancato. Eileen, are you there?
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? Name and address?
So Eileen Blancato, 18 Carroll Road, but actually I'm here with my father-in-law who wanted to speak, which is Sam Blancato at 527 Summit Avenue.
Okay.
Yes, my main concern is I understand you're trying to pass a law, which I really am totally against it. And the reason why is I'm 83 years old, so I'm historic by itself. Anyway, the main reason is why that I'm against it is because I feel that each homeowner has the authority, should have the authority to do what is necessary, reasonably necessary, to do whatever he wishes to do with the house. I have 3 homes on the same street. One is a 523, 525 is a duplex, well over 100 years old. The other one is 547 Summit Avenue. That's all well over 100 years old. It was probably built just around the turn of the century, if not a little bit before. Now, the situation is that what reason in the world is there when you have 8 people, the mayor, including 7 councilmen, all of the same party, deciding what they're going to do with the people of the owners of the homes in Westfield? I think that it's wrong, but the main thing is, more than anything else, I feel that because of this coronavirus, even though you have given out information, but not everybody reads the newspapers and what have you, I think that there ought to be a complete ordinance sent out to each homeowner so that he can see it. And when this coronavirus is over, then you have a meeting and see how many people are truly opposed to this whole thing. I believe that it's wrong to pass it by 8 people telling 30,000 people what to do. I think that it's definitely wrong and it should not be done that way. In the meantime, I hope that the young lady Judy, who spoke 2 people ago, that she will be continue to speak, because she made an awful lot of sense, and I would like to see her speak some more so she could take my time, because I'm just about done. I just want you to know that I came from Italy in 1953. I'm 83 years old, as I said before, and I've seen this town do tremendous amount of changes, most of it for the good. But with an ordinance of such, I don't think that it's for the benefit of the residents of the town and the owners of the town of Westfield. That is all I have to say. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
So he'd like to give the rest of his time for Judy to continue speaking. You had cut her off earlier.
I don't know that we cut anybody off, and you can't donate your time to somebody.
Okay.
So, but well, thank you very much, Ms. Ann and Eileen. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, next we have Anastasia Harrison. Anastasia, are you there? Name and address?
Anastasia Harrison, 1011 Minisink Way. I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, and I also serve on the planning board. I wanted to talk about the historic preservation ordinance because I feel that there's a lot of things that people are forgetting. They're forgetting the outrage and the upset level of tear downs. I had written an article about 3 years ago now, about tear downs and at the rate in which we were tearing down homes. And everybody was up in arms. Facebook was screaming and yelling and saying the town has to stop this. I sat on the Historic Preservation Commission. I know the workings of that ordinance. And I do not feel that the edits that have been made are so vastly different. This ordinance is providing a pause. It's providing a pause for the town council and all of the members of our town to look at the homes in which we want to find character and we want to define that in our neighborhoods. The values of our homes are not going to go down because we've torn down an old house. If anything, they're going to go up because the neighborhood and the character will remain that of what people come to Westfield for. Another point that I just want to make is people talk about green and sustainability, and they talk about putting solar panels on the front of a building. And if you really want to talk about green, because I've built a greenhouse that's LEED certified gold, don't tear one down, because that is the most disingenuous thing you can do, is to throw away an old home just to build a new one with subpar materials and less energy efficient building systems and wall assemblies. So I would say that I am very proud that the town council has taken this journey and pushed forward to this step. I've been involved with historic preservation, and we need this pause. We need this at this time in order to make the elements of our town and the character of our neighborhoods last. So thank you for all the work you've done on it, and great job.
Thank you, Anastasia. Next, we have Julie Diddell. Julie, are you there? Name and address?
Good evening. Yes, Julie Diddell, 411 Elm Street. And Mayor, I applaud you and the rest of your colleagues for the work that you're doing on this. And first and foremost is that elections have consequences. And this is a platform that the mayor ran on. She was duly elected. And so now I think she has an opportunity, and we have to stand behind her because she is our elected official and the others. She has the opportunity now to carry out her platform. I'm sure the mayor will monitor this ordinance, and if changes need to be made, changes will be made. I have to say, you talk about a small group of people making decisions. Well, the zoning boards and the planning boards are small groups of people that make decisions. And when my husband and I stood in front of the zoning board a few years ago, and were one of the only neighbors who didn't do a pay for play with the developer, we didn't get a new driveway. We didn't get a donation to our favorite charity. We stood up and we said, this house is too big. And the zoning official, the zoning board member who made the final decision to let that back-to-back gigantic albatross of a house be built, he had the power. He changed the character of our neighborhood. And we now have an albatross at what used to be probably a historic home that could have been rehabilitated. So carry on, Mayor. You have my support on this. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Julie. Next, we have Dylan Patel. Dylan, are you there? Name and address?
Hi, my name is Dylan Patel, and I live at 101 Surrey Lane.
Okay.
I want to compliment council members from Ward 4 for their work in Tamacos Park in the last few weeks. Specifically, Councilman Katz and Councilman Contract helped with painting the tennis wall in Tamacos Park.
Hey, Dylan.
Additionally,
Dylan, I'm sorry to interrupt. I hate to do this to you, but right now we're only taking comment on the Historic Preservation Commission, or Historic Preservation Ordinance. General comment is coming later in the agenda. So if you want to come back and comment at that point, but right now, the only comments are for the Historic Preservation Ordinance. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, hang on, Dylan. We'll come back to you later on. Thank you. Okay, next we have Sherry Hines. Sherry, you're there. Name and address?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, Sherry Hines, 28 Stoneleigh Park. I've spoken before about this issue on a historic ordinance. I also want to comment on the gentleman who lives on Dudley. I also am against this ordinance. I think it's an overreach. I think, again, it's been very difficult to get information. I second some of the things that people have said. It's been very difficult to get information, exact information about the statute that says in the MLUL that actually says the town, in order to be in compliance, the town must have the authority to take your house and declare a historic designation on your house. There isn't one. The state does not, Preservation Commission also does not do that. Their LCO, their local certified government doesn't mandate that the town have that kind of ordinance where the town council has the right to designate your home by a supermajority of the people on this town council. You know, there has been a lot of misinformation, and unfortunately, a lot of it has come from the HPC and the town council accusing other people of spreading misinformation. And I myself took it upon myself. I'm not paid by anybody. Nobody's giving me any money or donating any money. I'm on my own time. I took that list of 120 homes, of which mine is one, and went to many of the homes on that list and spoke to many of the homeowners that had received letters. And they did not understand, in fact, that it was more than pre-1930 homes that might get designated. They thought it only had to do with pre-1930 homes, which we all know that that is not the case. I again want to also talk about intent, because intent doesn't make a law. And you may not, and I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that your intent, Mayor, and all of you town council, your intent is not to take our homes without our agreement. And that may not be your intent. But I can tell you that if it happens and you take our homes against our wishes after this ordinance is passed, because I'm sure you're going to do that, whether we are against it or not, that you are going to have a problem on your hands, because you've said many times that you don't intend to do that. So I hope you are going to stick with your word and not do that. And I also am telling you right up front, my house is not going, I am against my home being designated, and I am not going to voluntarily give it to the town to be designated as a historic home. I also received one of these Harry Devlin Awards. I also care about homes. If you want your home to be historic or you want to keep it in the nature, I think it's up to the homeowner to be able to do that, not the town to tell me whether I should or whether I shouldn't. So again, I think it's overreach. I think there are ways to make the ordinance without doing that, and you should. There are people in this town who would voluntarily designate their home historic. And you don't need to pass this in order to get the HPC to go to individual homes and talk to people and have them do it. There are a lot of them who will do it without having to have this ordinance passed in this manner. So that's all I have to say about that tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sherry. Next, we have Michael Blancato. Michael, you're there. Name and address.
I'm
Yeah,
Michael Blancato. You've heard me talk a couple of times on this historic preservation ordinance. I wish that you could delegate time to other people like Judy, who's right on point with almost all of her points. The fact that we can't just goes to prove my point that this should be done in person after COVID is done. The other thing, I completely disagree with Anastasia. She said there were all these things happening. While I didn't get my Oprah request, while I did not get my Oprah request before yet, still hoping for it. I understand there were only 19 demolitions in 2019, about 40 in 2018, something along those. So we're talking 60. Of those, I understand it was about 10 that are before 1930. So that's point one that I wanted to make. Point two, you guys referred to studies about how it helps property values. I'm going to quote from one of the, I just lost my page. The cities that were involved, none of them represented Westfield. Here we go. Philadelphia, not Westfield. A small town, North Dakota, North Little Rock, Arkansas, not Westfield. Cleveland Restoration Society, not Westfield. Dubuque, Iowa, not Westfield. Louisville, Kentucky, not Westfield. And then it goes on to say, modest income towns have seen an increase in property values. Do you realize we are number 8 in New Jersey per capita income? We are not one of those towns. Second, this is a direct question to Tom Jardin. Tom, this ordinance, does it exceed the municipal state use law? Please answer that before you guys vote tonight, because Dawn Mackey, David Contract, and others have said that we need to pass this ordinance for the state municipal to align with that. I don't disagree that we need to redo our ordinance from 1984, that it needs to be updated, but we don't need to go here. Next, I have spoken with the state on a few occasions. As of August 20th, no one has contacted the state to say whether or not this ordinance actually complies with the state municipal land use law. So before this is voted on, it behooves you to go back to the state, to the Historic Preservation Office, and see if it meets the right criteria. It goes far beyond it, so I'm sure it will, but it still would be the right thing to do to at least go out and contact them. The person that was on there retired back in July, but they have now appointed a new person. I don't remember her name, and I'm not sure if she's official yet. More to the point, until she becomes official, you shouldn't go there. So, Tom, please answer that question before they take the vote on it tonight. Next, in one of the prior meetings, it was asked about whether or not realtors had to disclose this. If this ordinance passes tonight, realtors have to disclose, and I could show you the code, the ethics code that realtors have to use. They would have to disclose this. So they can't fly under the radar and say that they can't. So they have to disclose this if this ordinance passes tonight. Next, I have not seen one house that was designated as HPC, materially appreciate, in Westfield. If I take those 60 homes that I talk about that demolished last year and this year, again, I didn't get my full Oprah request because I was hoping to go back for the last 13 years, last 3 or 4 years. The average increase in real estate taxes goes up by $9,000 from a demolished home to a new home. I will also disagree with Anastasia on another point. I agree with her that in the landfill, when you demolish a home, there's a lot of stuff that goes into the landfill. No doubt about it. That's environmentally not just. But if they take their time and they separate the materials, they can do a much better job. I think some contractors today are doing that. But when I look at the homes that my dad was talking about earlier, and that was my dad talking, and I look at the home that I own, there is no way that home could become energy efficient. Anastasia, I challenge you, because I plan on demolishing my house now into 2021. So that is going to be one of the things I'm going to put up for early next year. So I'm going to be challenging this ordinance early on. So next, Mayor, you've said to me in the last call that I would be against demolishing all 4,000 homes. I never said that. So when you say intend, you put words in my mouth on the last call that I intend, or I would intend to have all 4,000 historic homes demolished. That would be my intention since I see real estate. That is simply not true. I've said several times, I think historic preservation is very important. This ordinance is written incorrectly. We finally have page numbers on it. So on page 14 of this ordinance, Julie, who was talking before, item number 3, changes in the exterior facade of any existing historic landmark or any improvement with any historic district by addition, alteration, replacement, rehabilitation, restoration, or reconstruction. I'm quoting from the ordinance. I can quote several other areas that I completely disagree with. But essentially, if you have a wood front now, and I decided to put hardy board like I did on my house on 18 Carroll Road, a cement board, not hardy board. I decided to put cement board, significantly more energy efficient. I put the foam backing in, my utility bills went down significantly. I can't do that under this ordinance because cement board's not part of historic preservation. Did you know that? And if I were to do that, I would have to get an appropriate of certificateness. In Plainfield right now, there's a lawsuit going on because a railing is being redone on the porch. The person wanted to put an aluminum type frame railing, which looks absolutely beautiful. But that lawsuit's in place because of the fact it would change 25% or more of the facade. It's this one of these wraparound porches. The person is so upset they're actually suing the town of Plainfield. So I could see a lot of lawsuits like this coming down the pipe. Next, oh, my computer died where my other speaking points. I mentioned it. So my last point on a final note, I mentioned more than once that I would like to meet in person. They gave a beautiful presentation last month by the HPC. That's a very biased opinion. That's their side. Let me give that same presentation. I promise you, I'll take the same amount of time as Maria did, but let me make my side. Let me bring contractors in. Let me do that. That's the fair thing to do. And my last point, your survey that came out, it never said, oh, do you want to have an HPC code? And would you mind if we restricted the rights of the people who own the 2,800 to 4,000 homes? That's not what your survey said. Your survey said simply HPC homes should move forward. I'm sorry, that should we preserve historical homes? Didn't say old homes. It didn't say anything like that. So I probably even clicked the box that say, yeah, that's a really good idea. So please, I behooves you, the town council, and like one of the other people said, elections are coming. So yeah, this is the platform you're standing on today, Mayor. Trust me, next year at this time, I'm not a Republican nor a Democrat because I've been accused of being a Republican. No offense, Mark, and no offense to the Democrats. I'm very independent, but I will make sure that if this is the platform you guys decide to move forward on, that it will be heard next October, okay, when re-elections come up. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you. Next, we have Kelly Kessler. Kelly, are you there? Name and address. You there, Kelly? Kelly? Are you there?
4 Hillside Avenue in Westfield. Can you hear me, Jim?
Yes, we can.
All right. So I do have a very, very long-term perspective on the remaking of our historic preservation ordinance. And, you know, it goes back. I've been on the commission probably too long. I think that 10 years ago, there was an application in with our old town planner to become a CLG to remake this ordinance. I can tell you for the years that I've been on the commission, including Sherry Hines, every time a house is threatened in one of these old neighborhoods, including Sherry Hines, they come running to the commission, including you, Jim, which I'm sure you remember this, when she came running to you and she said, you know, oh, the house is getting torn down and, you know, what can the town do for us? And I think that it is, they want the benefits of being designated without being designated. And then I've also heard a lot of concern, having grown up in the town, about the number of houses being torn down, and a lot of concern that Westfield is a primary candidate for that versus, say, a Summit, because our housing stock is all in all smaller. And certainly I think any of us can just drive around the town and see how our historic homes are being demolished right before our eyes. I know I can. And again, I would just say, you know, Sherry was one of the people who really, you know, came running to the town when there was a problem in her neighborhood. But now, you know, that doesn't serve her, so she's on a different side of the thing. But, you know, I just think that it should be what's right for the town as a whole. And whenever you try to affect big change, there's never going to be 100% of the people that are going to be for it. Never. But you do what's right for the town. And I, you know, I grew up in the town. I've been on the commission for a long time. And I think that, you know, this has clearly been on the minds of people in Westfield. That was clear from all of the research the town did when they were endeavoring to rewrite the plan for the town. And the commission, I can tell you, I've been on the commission a long time. I've heard a lot, but we only hear it when it's too late, unfortunately. And so all I would say is, let's not let it be too late. Let's do something about it while we still can. And, you know, I think our mayor listened to her constituents when she was running, and this was important, and it still is. It's not like it's gone away. It's just like, you know, whenever you try to affect really big change, you're never going to get 100% of the people to agree with you. It'll never happen. So I commend her for efforts on this. I stand behind her. I grew up in the town, on the commission, not because I get paid, but because, you know, I really care about the town. And I stand behind this in every which way. And if I lived in Stoneleigh, I would want to be a district, but, you know, I'm not saying the town is going to enforce this on them. Does the ordinance say it can? Yes. In practice, will it happen? Very unlikely. But, you know, Westfield clearly suffers a problem that this ordinance is trying to address, and I support it 100%. And I support the mayor 100%. That's it.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly.
Next, we have Michael Ash. Michael, are you there? Name and address.
Hi, good evening. Michael Ash, 913 Summit Avenue. I'm a member of the planning board. I did support this ordinance when it was referred to the planning board for consistency review with the master plan. I do live in a pre-1930 house, and I do continue to support this ordinance. I'm also an attorney in private practice, and my specialty is in property rights law, eminent domain actions, and representing property owners against the government in takings. And this ordinance is really consistent with typical zoning. And I don't know how this became such a politically divisive issue. And I don't know at what point people debating this issue started to call the implementation of zoning and putting a historic designation on a property a taking. But this is very far from a taking. This is not government overreach, and it's consistent with our master plan and the goals and objectives of the zoning in our town. And so I'll continue to support the ordinance. I think it's the right direction for our town and to preserve the character that we have and that we all enjoy in Westfield. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you. We next have Kathy. Kathy, are you there? Kathy, we lost you, Kathy. Sherry Hines.
Yeah, yes, if I could, I know I spoke. If you could just give me 10 seconds here to respond to Kelly Kessler bringing me up.
Sherry, I'm so sorry, but the policy is that you can't speak more than once, and we've been very consistent in implementing that. So,
Well, I don't, I appreciate that, Mayor, but I don't think it's right of her to
actually,
assign
Sherry,
people in
Sherry,
attend-
I am so sorry, but I absolutely, as my role here in managing this meeting, I have to stick to what's allowed. So we cannot let you speak again.
Let me go back. Kathy. Kathy's using an older version of Zoom, and she's not able to speak. Let's see if we can get her. Kathy, we're not able to get you speaking right now. All right, actually, there's no one else who's raising their hand, Mayor, and Kathy, I don't know who she is. Let's say Robert Wendell. Let's go to Robert, name and address.
Hi, Robert Wendell, 704 Lenox Avenue. I urge the town council to support the HPC ordinance, not because it's the perfect law, but because it is a law that, and because there are no, first of all, there's no perfect laws, but instead because it propels the community forward into its future with an eye on its past. On this 300th year of the town's founding, the community needs to stop and reflect on its past through its architecture, its history, and its culture. Marcus Garvey said, "A people without knowledge of its past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without its roots." And our history is still around us in many very special structures and places in our town. It currently lives in its history as it marches forward into the future. So I urge the council to approve this ordinance, which may in fact not stop demolitions in all cases going forward. They'll be addressed on a case-by-case basis with a lot of concern and collaboration with the people in town. But before we go ahead and wipe away our town's history for the sake of quote unquote progress, I think it's important to take this step and to stop and before we destroy any more of our history and do what's right for the town going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Wendell. Kathy, again, I see I'm going to try to allow you to talk again. You may want to try to call a number if you want. There's a call number on the Zoom invite. You could try that as well. And Mr. Siegel, I see that as the mayor indicated, you can only speak once on this ordinance. Let's give Kathy a minute, see if she calls in. Kathy, if you're unable to get through, feel free to submit your question via email after the meeting if you'd like to. I know our webmaster has indicated you're using an older version of Zoom. No one else has raised their hand, Mayor.
Okay, so this hearing is closed. So next is general ordinance number 2180. Oh, sorry, Kara, I'm taking your job again.
Next is general ordinance number 2186, an ordinance to amend certain provisions of the land use ordinance of the town of Westfield as it relates to pods. Anyone wishing to be heard on general ordinance number 2186, please virtually raise your hand to make your comment. Be sure to include your name and address for the record.
Seeing nobody, Mayor. Hold on. We have a person. We have a Roland Hill. Roland, are you there? Mr. Hill, are you there? Mr. Hill?
Hello.
Yes, this is a public hearing for the pods ordinance. Do you have a comment on the pods ordinance?
No, I don't have any comment.
Okay, thank you. No one else, Mayor, at this point on this ordinance.
Okay, so this hearing is closed.
Okay, third is general ordinance number 2187, an ordinance to amend certain provisions of the land use ordinance of the town of Westfield by defining pet care facilities and establishing them as a permitted principal use in certain zone districts. Anyone wish to be heard on general ordinance number 2187, please virtually raise your hand, make your comment, and be sure to include your name and address for the record.
Anyone want to speak on this ordinance? Seeing nobody, Mayor, you may close the ordinance or close the hearing.
This hearing is closed.
And the last hearing is for general ordinance number 2188, an ordinance to amend Article IA demolitions of Chapter 8 of the town of Westfield. Anyone wish to be heard on general ordinance number 2188, please virtually raise your hand to make your comment. Be sure to include your name and address for the record.
We have one person, Mrs. Shale. Want to be heard on this ordinance? Courtney Shale? Are you there? Courtney? Unmute yourself. You can speak on this ordinance. Mrs. Shale? So she's not unmuting herself. Mrs. Shale, one last time. Like to be heard on this ordinance. Hello, Courtney. Are you there? She's unmuted, but she's not talking. Are you there, Mrs. Shale?
Yeah, I can wait.
Can't hear you. You're muted again. Are you there, Mrs. Shale?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Very lowly. Yes, we can.
Okay, about the demolition.
Can you raise your microphone?
Hello, can you hear me?
That's better.
Okay, so this is to conform this to the historic preservation, correct? So I just wanted to point out kind of the practical effects of all this. My sister's house burned down. She owned the Witchwood Gatehouse, and it burnt down, and she applied for a demo permit a number of years ago. And thankfully, this ordinance regarding demos and historic preservation wasn't in effect at the time, because had it been in effect, I'm sure she wouldn't have gotten the demo permit. And no doubt the house would have been designated as historic, because everybody knows the Witchwood Gatehouse, and it was built in 1927. So she would have been denied the demo permit to tear it down. She would have been subject to getting a certificate of appropriateness to rebuild the house the way the town told her to rebuild it, Just for a point of reference, the cost to rebuild the house, exactly the same as it was with upgrades for zoning, because you have to still build it in compliance with new zoning, would have cost her $900,000 to rebuild that home. And the town could have forced her to rebuild that home and not issued her the demo permit. So it would have cost her, she bought the house and the property for $750,000. So then she would have to spend another $900,000 to rebuild that home, subject to the town telling her exactly how to rebuild it, and would have had $1.65 million of her money into a house that was only 2,000 square feet with 3 bedrooms. So she would essentially lost all of her equity in that home. So as a practical matter, I mean, that's a burnt out house. I know that doesn't happen very often, but as a practical matter, letting the Historic Preservation Committee review every single demo permit and determining whether or not they're going to let it be demolished has a huge impact on the residents of Westfield. So I just wanted to point out a practical, real life example of what would have happened to my sister had this ordinance been in effect. Luckily, she got it torn down before this happened. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shell. Anyone else want to be heard on this ordinance? Seeing none, Mayor. Hold on. We have Anastasia Harrison. Anastasia, name and address. Thank you.
Anastasia Harrison, 1011 Minisink Way. Just in accordance with the demolition ordinance, I just want to bring an example that I think has received a lot of wonderful accolades on Facebook, which I know isn't the be all and end all. But there was the old Red Cross building that was slated to be demolished. And a few concerned board members, myself, and other town people got involved. And we were able to talk to the developer and really get them to understand the elements of the architecture that needed to happen there. Yes, the home was demolished. Yes, the builder built a new home, but he built one that is in the character and the architectural style that is very consistent with the surrounding homes. And it's great to have some actions on demolition permits that allow for a little bit of time so that more projects like this can be a positive benefit to the town. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Anastasia. Mr. Blancato, you want to be heard on this ordinance?
Yes, please. There's a misconception on the demolition process. Everybody thinks that, oh, you don't have to get heard. The town of Westfield has the systems in place that as soon as a demolition permit is done, and I'm working on one right now, so I found all this out because of this. It could take, the town can have up to 20 days, plenty of time to send it around before they have to go back and issue a permit. Plenty of time to go back to the HPC, plenty of time to go to the town council. There's more than enough time. So I hear everything that's going, but this demolition process is even an overreach. So my feeling is that this, along with the other ordinance, both should be voted down. So there's plenty of time. And Mayor, in the last meeting, you said that you weren't heard.
Mayor,
Today's email.
I feel compelled to speak up. This is the town attorney. I just think Mr. Blancato and maybe the last two speakers are a little confused. This particular ordinance that's in front of the council right now for a public hearing is not the HPC demolition ordinance. Actually, this particular ordinance came about based on recommendations from our new construction official. And the changes here have nothing whatsoever to do with the historic preservation demolition process.
My apologies, Tom.
That's okay.
I couldn't download this. I was trying to download it. I cannot download it. So if you could send me the link, that'd be great.
Confusion. This is a cleanup and clarificatory ordinance. That's all it is.
Apologies.
Okay, anyone else? We have Mr. Siegel, want to be heard on this ordinance?
Yeah, Jim, it's Gary Siegel. Just real quick, 266 East Dudley. Logrippo has been holding up a sign for the last 10 minutes saying that he wants to be unmuted and to speak. And that goes all the way back to 2183. Is there some rule preventing a councilman from speaking on this call?
Actually, I'll speak up. Yes, there is. This is our meetings are conducted pursuant to Robert's Rules of Order. This is the portion of the meeting that is a public hearing on an ordinance. And that means it's time for the public to comment on the particular ordinance that is before the council for adoption. After the public hearing is closed on each ordinance and the ordinances themselves, all of them, including ordinance 2183, will be put on motion and second for discussion and adoption if there's enough votes by the council. That's the period at which time the council takes the question up and debates it. So there is a motion, a second, a discussion, and so any council member at that point would speak to the question before the council, not during the public comment. It's not public debate, it's public comment.
But people should be allowed to say thank you to residents who come up. Who's controlling the mute button?
My understanding is every council member is able to unmute and mute themselves.
No, my mute has been locked.
I wouldn't recommend the council to start debating or discussing or even saying hello and goodbye with the council during the public, during the public hearing section on an ordinance. It's not public debate. It is public.
I'm not saying if you want to thank a resident for speaking, that's ridiculous.
Well, I guess you could write that on your sign, Councilman Legrippo, instead of unmute me.
Yeah, but I mean, it's ridiculous, right?
Hey, guys, I wasn't trying to.
Tom, Gary, thanks for the comments. And Tom, thank you for your clarification. So just to reiterate, Mr.
I'll
Siegel.
wait to hear from the council later. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, no one else is to be heard on this ordinance? We can close the hearing, Mayor.
This hearing is closed. So Councilman Mackey, please move for the adoption of Code Review and Town Property Committee ordinances.
Hi. Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move to the adoption General Ordinance number 2183 as amended on second reading. An ordinance establishing a historic preservation commission and providing for the designation and preservation of historic districts and historic landmarks in the town of Westfield.
May I have a second? I need a second. I think Linda.
They have to unmute.
You have to unmute. I don't know. Everybody has to unmute themselves.
No one wants to second it, I guess.
I think they're all muted. Looks like Linda's trying. Linda's seconding it.
Yay, somebody seconded it.
Okay, so any discussion?
Mayor, as you know, I'll be voting no. I've been talking about this since June, since it was first introduced. I think it is an overreach. And at the end of the day, the town council has this final say if a resident could designate their home or district. So I don't believe that's fair to taxpayers here in Westfield. And honestly, I think it'll eventually lead to a lawsuit costing taxpayers more money. And also there's a third ward resident who's disabled, who started a petition. She has approximately 150 names from all over Westfield. She emailed me that today. She wanted to know if you and Councilman Contract received her petition. I said I didn't know, and I would ask tonight. So can you confirm you received her petition?
She sent it to me tonight, presuming that
Okay.
you're the same person.
Yeah, she didn't want to be named, but she's disabled and couldn't make it. But
No,
Yeah, at the end,
I'm very familiar with her, so.
Yeah, and Mark, I
Okay.
received it and I talked to her at length this evening and addressed her concerns.
okay. So you know, you understand her concerns. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate everyone's time. Everyone did work hard on this. At the end of the day, I just have a different opinion. I think the ordinance goes too far. And so I will be voting no. And I received a lot of inquiries from people around town that they received the letter. Was that a letter that was sent out by, it was addressed from the mayor? Was that sent by the town or the Historic Preservation Committee? Was that done on taxpayer dollars, or how was that letter done? Anybody?
What letter are you talking about?
Yeah, I think
it
it was sent by the HPC.
Okay, but the mayor, you addressed it too, right? Because it came from you as well, right?
I think they put a letter and asked me to add a letter to it, but they basically took a letter that I wrote in the leader and put it in there.
Oh, okay. All right. So was it done with taxpayer dollars then? Do we know if it was done with taxpayer dollars or?
Yes, I'd have to ask the chairman of the HPC. She took care of it. I think it was she that did it.
Jim, do you know who paid for the letter?
I do not know. We can find out, but I don't know right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's imperative if a letter is going out to certain residents, because certain residents received them, certain residents didn't, who are on that.
No, it was not paid. Linda has a comment. It was not paid for taxpayer dollars. It was paid privately. I just got confirmation.
Okay. Okay, great.
Linda,
Thank you, everyone.
We can't hear you.
You're unmuted. You're just breaking up, Linda. Any other comments on this?
Yeah, it might be your earbud problem.
You can call in.
This is exactly why these meetings should be done in public.
Any other comments on this?
I would just
I could hear her.
like to make a few points of clarification just based upon some of the comments that the resident wrote and comment on. I think many are talking about this list of historic homes, and that list was created in 2002, and that's part of the historic element of the master plan that was created in 2002. So I think if anything, what this brought to light to people is that they've been on a list for almost 20 years and maybe weren't aware of it, but that was not a list that we had done. It wasn't criteria we created. That was a list that was done in previous administrations, quite frankly, that were very supportive of historic preservation 20 years ago. So I just wanted to make that very clear, is that that wasn't something that we came up with. And someone had mentioned that there weren't land use attorneys. Tom could speak to that, consulted. Tom could speak to it better than I could, but our planning board attorney was consulted. And Tom, do you want to talk about the number of folks that you all consulted on the creation of this ordinance?
Yeah, I think I maybe said this before in a public forum. We've had many meetings, both with the subcommittee of the Historic Preservation Commission and myself and the town planner, Don Samet, and Alan Trembulac, the attorney for the planning board. By the way, Alan was at one point in time the town attorney for Montclair and drafted their historic preservation ordinance at the time. In addition to that, we consulted with Ginny Bauer, who some people may know the name, but she's a sort of an expert in the state on historic preservation law and the municipal land use law. And I myself, as well as I believe Robert Wendell, if not also Kelly Kessler, consulted with staff at the State Historic Preservation Office. I don't know if I'm forgetting anybody, Don, but we did spend quite a bit of time on it.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, look, I'm new at this, but I'd like to take a minute to just kind of outline why I think I support the ordinance at this time. You know, this isn't evergreen, just a few highlights. While I was planning, a former councilman told me, kind of in contested situations like this, to do what I believe is right for Westfield. And in short, I think this is right for the town. And I think it's what's consistent with what we saw during the public input process as the master plan was being prepared. That is, I think respondents to the plan overwhelmingly preferred a reduction in tear downs and a preservation of the houses and the character of this town. And the ordinance, what it does is it helps to preserve why many of us, I think, chose to move to Westfield in the first place. Virtually everyone I've spoken to, you know, prefer, like when they moved to Westfield, one of the things that sold them on the town was the character of Westfield, which is really defined by its architecture. And this ordinance does its best to preserve that character. And, you know, first off, I think that this ordinance has just been overly and improperly politicized. I feel like the loudest and most organized opposition to the ordinance hasn't been from people who truly care or don't care about historic preservation, but instead by those who have historically criticized Mayor Brindle since she's been elected. You know, and in fact, you know, I note that one vocal opponent to the ordinance actually argued exactly the opposite in the Westfield Leader many years ago. He took the position that the town should take steps to historically designate a house here in Ward 2 without the consent of the owner. You know, that house was sold with restrictions of the kinds of homes that could have been built in the adjacent lots. And frankly, I'm just not persuaded when there's that kind of hypocrisy. Some others have argued that we shouldn't have considered this ordinance during the pandemic, and I'm not persuaded by that either. First of all, this process, you know, it's 9:47 at night. We really haven't done anything other than go through this ordinance this evening. The process started in the beginning of the summer. There's certainly been plenty of time for residents to voice their opinions as to whether during a meeting or directly with me. We've had several council meetings that have concluded a substantial amount of public comment. Opponents have alerted the residents with door hangers and flyers. The Leader and the Tap have had numerous articles and letters to the editor relating to the issue. Personally, I've had a substantial number of phone calls and emails and conversations with my friends and neighbors, people who I respect, both in support of and in opposition to the ordinance. And I've even heard from people who live outside of Westfield. And I'm not persuaded by the argument that people who are elderly and are unable to attend a Zoom meeting. I mean, my 75-year-old mother, who's not technically a technology proficient, certainly has given me an earful on this statute or this ordinance as well. And plus, I think what we've done is we've revised the ordinance in several respects in order to address a lot of public input and concerns. Towards that end, I'm not persuaded that the demolition clause is going to negatively impact property values. First, we adjusted the percentage in one of the revisions. We adjusted the percentage of the demolition that triggers the clause in the first place, because the idea is to encourage renovation rather than demolition of these pre-1930 homes that define the character of this town. A resident on East Dudley spoke earlier tonight. He indicated he was proud of an award he received from the HPC following a renovation he and his wife undertook several years ago. And I can't believe Mr. Siegel would want a future buyer just to demolish that house that he put so much effort in restoring. Updating these kinds of pre-1930 homes makes them more energy efficient, more use efficient as well, just for larger families and the kind of people who are moving into Westfield. That's important, and that's something that can be accomplished without actually tearing it down. That's precisely what my wife and I did 10 years ago with our house. The renovation was substantially cheaper than demolishing and building a new house on the property. And so it made much more sense to renovate my house than to actually demolish it. And more importantly, I think what's something that's really a great move is that we're moving forward with designating historic homes as areas in need of rehabilitation, which would help defray the costs of renovation and upkeep by providing tax breaks to historically designated homes. One other thing that we revised was we specifically provided homeowners with a mechanism in the ordinance that allows them to determine before they sell their home or before they renovate their home or before they sell it to a builder, whether or not the HPC would even consider seeking a designation. And so the notion that there has to be a disclosure there'll be no disclosure if you know you're going to sell your house, because you can go and you can figure it out in front of the HPC beforehand. And third, we shortened the time frame for review to make the process more efficient. And we also reduced the percentage of homes that were needed to appeal any designation. I'm also not persuaded by the argument the ordinance improperly vests the council with inappropriate power to impact homeowners' property rights. You know, as we've learned, the municipal land use law in New Jersey as it pertains to historic preservation is rooted in a municipality's inherent authority to enact zoning laws and restrictions. You know, I live in a corner lot here in Westfield. Zoning prohibits me from selling my home to a gas station or a Wawa. And we all enjoy the benefits of those kinds of restrictions. And I can't believe I've heard anyone complain that they can't sell their house, or at least that their neighbors can't sell their house to Wawa or someone who's going to build an office building on their lot. And moreover, there's no benefit to the town to designate just willy-nilly a home or a district without the homeowner's consent. So for all those reasons, I think this is the right ordinance at the right time for Westfield, and I'm going to support.
You gonna designate your house, Mark?
You know what? I'll tell you something, Mark. You know what? I don't need to answer you, but I'm not going to, because it doesn't satisfy the requirements to even be designated as historic. If you read through the historic preservation ordinance, my house has to add to the character and value, and it doesn't. It's a pre-1930s home, and it's part of the character of the town. It would be subject to the ordinance. I still support it, even though that it would be subject to the ordinance. And frankly, I don't think that if I did volunteer it to be designated, that it would ever be granted with historic status. And in fact, following, you know, I remember when the Siegel's house on Dudley was granted that award. You know, I didn't get any kind of award from the HPC for the renovations that we did on our house, and so I'm pretty confident that volunteering my house is just going to waste the HPC's time.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Councilman Parmalee, for that exceptional summary of where we are to date. I'm very grateful.
Actually, I'm really glad I was muted.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman. But I did want to make a couple of comments, since I am the liaison to the Historic Preservation Commission, and has spent a lot of time with the people involved in that committee, as they've spent a lot of long hours evaluating the amendments that are being made to this ordinance. And I and a lot of other people on this council have spent many hours with residents, not only answering emails and putting together pages and pages and pages of frequently asked questions and responses, but also holding meetings via Zoom and some in person, you know, to make sure that we gave all residents who had comments or questions about this the opportunity to feel like they were heard, and that we took the time to take into account what they cared about. That is why we made the further amendments to the ordinance that Councilman Parmalee just outlined for us. And I also will be supporting the ordinance tonight, because I think that there's a need to preserve the history of our town. And I just don't believe that this is overreach in any way, shape, or form. And I would encourage people to go back and read all the documentation that's been put together on this, because it will help to clarify, again, some of the things that were raised tonight that are just not accurate. And to address the last point about the petition, we did get a very last minute email today about delivery of a petition not being able to be delivered. It was nothing, it was many pages of names. I counted them up. It was 84 households. It's 0.007% of the households in Westfield. So I don't know what the people on that list were disputing or objecting to, because it wasn't laid out in the paperwork that was delivered to us. But I just thought I would clarify that as well. Thank you very much.
So Linda, you'll be designating your house or no?
So my house was built in 1895. And before I bought it, I'm sorry?
No, it's an old house. I would think it's historic.
It was built in 1895. It was significantly changed by the third owner. We are the fourth owners of it. And because of the significant changes that were made to the front of the house, I don't think that that it either would be eligible for designation. But I will say that it would be a crime for that house to ever be torn down, because there are many things on the interior of that home that date back to the time that it was built. The original parquet floors are there, the original newel posts, the original molding. And those are the kinds of things that we should be trying to preserve in our town.
So it'd be good. It would be a good candidate then, you're saying?
The Historic Preservation Commission, Mark, if you take a look at the ordinance and all the FAQs, is preserving the exterior of homes.
Right.
Just to clarify.
No, I know, but you would think 1895, because most of the old houses all have had significant structural changes as it is. Thank you.
I'm not sure your point, but.
Any other comments?
No, I'll just, obviously, I'll just reflect back on something I think Julie Diddell mentioned. Julie, who maybe you don't know, but she lives in the old Adams family house on Elm Street, probably one of the most iconic homes in our community. So incredibly grateful that she came out to support this tonight. And I do think the thing she pointed out, people have very short memories. Yes, when I was running for mayor, and many of us here running for council, we heard over and over again about people screaming about the tear downs in our house and how in our community, and how much it had been accelerated over the last 5 to 10 years. And it was quickly changing the character of our community, and we would lose it if we didn't do something quickly. So this is an amazing historic town. I think a lot of the reasons we live here is because of that. And while I know we've heard a lot of arguments about people are saying about my property rights, I think we here on this council, and I feel personally that I have an obligation to be a long-term stewards of the character and architecture of this community. So I don't feel like I have the benefit of just thinking about what this may mean for me, although I think it will ultimately be good. I think we have an obligation to think about the greater good and the long-term sustainability of our town. And so I have heard everybody's concerns. I feel like time will reveal that they won't be, they will not be what people's biggest fears are going to be. And they will reveal that we have done an incredibly good, remarkable thing for future generations. So I'm very proud of this ordinance, actually, and I'm incredibly proud to support it. And I'm very grateful for the courage that many of these council members have demonstrated to support it as well. And not only be very good listeners to the feedback that we've got, and have humbly actually accommodated many of the changes, I think, to ultimately end up with something that's better than where we started. So thank you all. And I think we can move forward to calling the roll. So Ms. Rowley, please call the roll.
Hello.
Councilwoman Habgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrippo,
No.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce, Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
Next ordinance, Dawn.
Next, I would like to move for the adoption of General Ordinance number 2186 on second reading, an ordinance to amend certain provisions of the land use ordinance of the town of Westfield as it relates to pods.
May I have a second?
Second. Katz.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Habgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrippo,
Oh, I think he says he's muted.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah. Yes.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Tom's trying to say something.
Yeah, we need to bring Councilman Boyce back.
He's back. He's back.
Yeah.
Oh, he's back, yeah.
Got it.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
I would also like to move for the adoption of General Ordinance Number 2187 on second reading. An ordinance to amend certain provisions of the land use ordinance of the town of Westfield by defining pet care facilities and establishing them as a permitted principal use in certain zone districts.
May I have a second?
Second, Contract.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrepo,
Yes.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
Lastly, I would like to move for the adoption of General Ordinance Number 2188 on second reading. An ordinance to amend Article 1A demolitions of Chapter 8 of the Town Code of Westfield.
May I have a second?
Second, Katz.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrepo,
No.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the town council regular meeting of August 11th, 2020?
So moved.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Mackey, second.
Second.
Second by Councilor Grippo. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
This motion is carried. Mrs. Rowley, do we have any petitions or communications?
No, Mayor, we do not.
Now it's time for open discussion by citizens. Please virtually raise your hand to make your comment on any subject on which we have jurisdiction. And please state your name and address for the record.
You have Mr. Blancato. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I am disappointed the ordinance went through. Even a couple of things that Mr. Parmalee just said and Mr. Jardine, I just looked at the Montclair ordinance that you compared it to. This statute's much more of an overreach than that ordinance. Hopefully this is behind us, but I will tell you this will come up next year in the election cycle. I'll make sure of that. Mr. Parmalee, was never against Mayor Brindle. So I think you were referring to me. If you were, never. Okay, if you weren't referring to me, I took it personally because I've been against this ordinance because of the foundation of it. It's
Mr. Blancato, I'm sorry.
Mayor, please.
No, actually, no, I just want to tell you up front, we had said if you comment on the ordinance, and you couldn't comment on that ordinance again in general discussion. So if you want to comment on something else.
So I'm going to continue now. Hopefully now with the COVID crisis, we look forward to how we figure out what we're going to do for the town center in the coming months. Things like what type of pergolas we might be able to do. Things like how we're going to remove the snow if there's still outdoor dining, how we're going to be able to put outside heaters, that kind of thing. Hopefully this ordinance is behind us and maybe the intent is where you guys are going. And I really hope that's truth, but I will be able to test it in the next coming months. But that you guys work on something that's very important, which is keeping the town center alive. Because I haven't seen enough of that. I've seen a lot of vacancies go through. I've seen a lot. So hopefully that becomes top of mind moving forward. Go ahead, Dawn.
Shelley, am I allowed to speak now, Mayor?
Dawn, can you hold, we're trying not to do any hold comments till public comments close. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it, you're done, Mr. Blancato?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. We have Damian Wall. Mr. Wall, are you there? Hello? Damian? We'll come back to you. Hold on. Mr. Wall, are you there? Okay, we'll have Mr. Next person, Jeff Scheininger. Did I get that right? Are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Name and address, please.
Jeff Scheininger, 993 Woodmere Drive.
Thanks. Go ahead.
I want to thank you for recognizing me, and I sincerely want to thank all of you for your service to our town. I listened tonight. Your job is a difficult one. I speak tonight to oppose the creation of mountain bike trails in Brightwood Park. I am part of the Brightwood community, and I attended both council-sponsored Jorba-run information sessions in the park. I am confident that mountain biking trails will ruin the nature park that generations of Westfield politicians have worked hard to pass down. And I am not alone. Currently, we have 1,887 people who have gone on our website and registered their opposition to mountain biking in the park. This is not AstroTurf. This is real grassroots engagement. Voters petitioning their government for redress is baked into the Constitution and is the kind of engagement that politicians ignore at their peril. This is significant, and a significant number of voters. Basic rule of thumb is 2.1 voters per self-generated signature. In addition to our very real concerns that the park and its wetlands will be ruined permanently, I want to remind the council that the deeds that transferred a significant amount of the land to the town forbade this very development. By accepting the land, the town is bound by the terms of the deeds. In 1992 and 1993, the town engineer, as well as the council members, rec members, and the mayor were aware of the restraints that these deeds engendered. The town accepted this land with constraints, and those constraints remain. It is incumbent on this council to do its due diligence with respect to all of the issues that will be coming up pertaining to wetlands and natural habitats, and including the ones that I bring up tonight. We hope that you reject mountain biking in our nature park. It's clear from tonight's activities that you see yourselves as stewards of our town's historic homes. Also see yourselves as stewards of our nature park. Future generations will laud you for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Trudy Burke. Ms. Burke, you're not able to speak. You're using a different Zoom account. You want to try to call in? That might work. We'll come back to you. Ms. Denise Ritchie. Denise, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Got a name and address?
So thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. After listening to the whole meeting, I find there's a certain irony tonight because the park presentation discussed Brightwood the same day that the HPC ordinance was heard, because there was a great deal presented about preserving the history of Westfield in its homes, and yet there appears to be a rush to develop mountain biking course in a nature preserve. And I find that to be a little incongruous. And let me first say, Mr. Parmalee, I am a Democrat who had Mayor Brindle and Linda Habgood sign in my front yard. So lest you think that I am somebody who has disagreed with everything the Democrats have done. I am appalled. And let me just say that a mountain biking trail is not a bike trail. There is and I can share with you recommended standards for trails. Mountain bikes take 2 to 3 feet width, a little bit more for the clearance area. A touring bike would require 3 to 6 feet. According to the DEP standard, if you put in a trail that is a multi-use trail that can be 6 feet wide, if a trail is only 2 to 3 feet wide and there is a mountain bike coursing on that course, it would be dangerous for a pedestrian to be on that same trail. So to say this is a multi-use trail is absolutely not true. I'm just concerned that we've put the horse before the cart here. We have the Recreation Commission considering a proposal that there's been no feasibility study of. We don't know what wetlands there are, what transition areas there are in the park, and yet we have Jorba putting together a proposal with a trail that's going to be 2 miles long. And this, after the town did a survey for the master plan, which found that 70% of the people want more hiking trails, they want nature preserves, only 18% are seeking mountain bike course. And it's not a trail, it's a mountain bike course. Jorba is a special interest group. So what we're doing is we are giving 80% of the trail space to 18% of the population and limiting 20% of the trail space to the 70% that want more trails. I am just mystified how you could pay for a study to be done and then throw the survey results out and put through a proposal for mountain biking trails for 2 miles of a very small acreage plot. This is a special interest group that we are ceding public lands to. And I cannot be, I'm beyond words to understand how this town council and the Recreation Commission could possibly see, and I apologize, I have a little bit of a cold. I was visiting my grandsons over the week. But how you could not see the environmental impact as something that you should study before you consider a proposal that will irreparably harm the park. And I've talked to people who are more knowledgeable. I am not a scientist, but I understand that you will be introducing invasive species into forest where there are none, because the seeds from the plants will be dispersed by the bicycles. Has anyone looked into this? Has anyone looked into the ecological consequence of putting in a mountain bike course? So I thank you for having this opportunity. I hope that the council seriously thinks through this. I don't see where any environmental study has been done to assess it and whether any endangered species have been looked into. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. We have Sherry Hines. You speaking about something other than the historic preservation? Are you still there, Ms. Hines?
I am here. Yes, I'm not going to speak about that. I'm going to speak about myself. I'm going to speak about the town of Westfield, your resolution regarding rehab. But I do want to say that I don't appreciate being maligned in a public forum when what was said was not true about me. I have not changed my mind about historic preservation in the town. I do believe that people should do that if they want to. I've always said that. I live in a historic home, so I do believe that people should be able to do that if they so choose to do that. What I oppose is having someone tell me that they are going to designate it whether I want it or not. I just want to make that clear that I have not changed my mind from the time that I went to the HPC trying to get Stoneleigh, and I did. There's no secret about that. Trying to get people in Stoneleigh Park to see about doing that, as we are already a state designated area. So I just don't appreciate being maligned.
I'm sorry. You said you
I got you. I'll stop talking about it now. I got it. Okay, I got it. You don't want to hear it. So, but I will say that I've seen your resolution, that we now have a new preparation, a new consultant who's come and told us that the town of Westfield is an area that needs to be rehabbed. So now not only are we going to save our historic homes, we're now going to save the whole town of Westfield and declare it to be in need of rehab, like our parking lots that you told us about in another town meeting, where all of the 8 parking lots were determined to be in need of rehab. I'm like some of the other people that have spoken. I find myself just flabbergasted and without words to even begin to understand why we would think that our complete town of Westfield needs to be rehabbed. And I can't wait to hear more on this subject about what your reasoning is, other than a tax abatement, what the reasoning for that is. So I can't wait to hear more about that and get involved in what that is all about. So thank you, and thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. We have Vicki Williams. Vicki, are you there? Name and address.
Hi, yes, I'm Vicki Williams. I live at 110 Hamilton Avenue, and I appreciate the being able to speak to you tonight. I'm an artist and I'm a retired preschool teacher, and I've lived in town 28 years, not in a historic house, but I appreciate your concern about the character of Westfield, and I'd like to talk to you about the character of Brightwood Park. Brightwood Park was dedicated in 1993 in the name of Noel Taylor, who had done considerable amount of studies in the park to look at the geology and the various ecosystems that are in the park. It's dedicated as a place of quiet serenity, and it is a place where you will find many small mammals and birds. And what I'd like to tell you is that it's a treasure. I've seen a lot of deforestation up and down Upper Prospect Street, and there needs to be a place for the animals to go. Animals that are part of the food chain, animals that include possums who eat quite a large number of ticks every day, bats, skunks, squirrels, mice, chipmunks, moles, shrew, raccoons, muskrats, rabbits, fox, so occasionally coyote. I have one neighbor who swears he saw a bobcat in there once, but I have not heard of that from anyone else. And that was a while ago. Westfield wisely set aside this land to be undisturbed for habitats for these animals and put in a walking trail that's also used by casual bicyclists and other people who maybe have strollers, as a place for people to encounter nature, to encounter things that transcend them, that take their breath away when they are there. There is an ill-conceived proposed construction of a mountain bike course in Brightwood Park. It is not a multi-use trail if it's only 2 to 3 feet wide. And that is what, for some reason, Jorba has become a stakeholder in this development, and they have become a stakeholder in an area that this is Westfield's area. This is not Jersey Off-Road Bike Association's area to determine. When you look at University of Arkansas has put together a study of different ways parks can be developed. And they say that it is 2 to 3 feet wide at the tread level for a mountain bike course, but it significantly widens out to 6 to 8 feet, at least at the shoulder level of the riders, because they need visual space to go around corners. And the goal of mountain biking is to go through a challenging course at high speeds. Once this course is constructed, much biomass will be eliminated from the park. These are habitats of birds, small animals, and the course, designed with twists and sharp curves, is a place to be for thrill seekers who practice an extreme sport. If this course is built, animal populations will not thrive where speeding bikes are constantly cutting through their trails. Ecosystems will perish in a place designed to protect them. Considerable underbrush will be removed from the park, disturbing the rich bird life found in the park. While the tread width of the trail, again, is 2 to 3 feet wide, the shoulder width will be 6 to 8 feet wide, and you will be able to see this course from the existing trail that goes around the pond. Westfield needs to think about this. Westfield cannot get this back once it's developed. Jorba should not be a stakeholder in the future of a nature reserve. Their mission and goal is different than the mission and goal of our nature reserve, Brightwood Park. And thank you for listening to me. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vicki. Thanks for teaching my kids.
Next, we have Drew Kellerman. Drew, are you there? Name and address?
Hi, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I live at 800 Forest Avenue. I am in the park probably twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. If I see 2 other people in the park, that's a lot. So, and I'm there during what should be, pretty busy hours for a park. So I'm not sure how all of a sudden hundreds of people are interested in the welfare of Brightwood Park, because I'm there and I don't really see anybody there. So I would like to see people be able to utilize the park while still keeping it friendly to nature. From what I understand currently, there are many invasive species. The park has not been taken care of. There's currently invasive species that have taken over. If you take a walk through the park, and I'm sure many of you have, the park is overgrown. It's not in good shape. It's not what you would call a nature preserve currently. So I haven't mountain biked in a number of years, but I used to be an avid mountain biker, so I do know a little bit about the subject. I'm not sure how, as the last person said, I'm not sure how my shoulders would be 4 to 6 feet wide. They're just not. And I'm accustomed to mountain biking on very, very narrow trails. So I'm not sure why the trail would have to be and take over the edges of the trail to that extent. It doesn't make sense to me. As far as, I only have 2 more points to make. As far as Jorba being a special interest group, they are one of the best, and I have no stake in this, they're one of the best special interest groups I've ever seen, because they are committed to taking care of the areas that their mountain bikers bike in. So I'm not sure how that's a bad thing. From what I understand, the trails already exist. So it's not like we're putting trails. I would not be an advocate of putting trails into a place that doesn't currently have them and cutting into, but apparently they already exist. So I'm not sure where the harm is in that. And I think that is about it. So I'm in favor of allowing more people to enjoy the nature preserve as it was intended. And I don't believe that having mountain bikers in the park will interfere. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Drew. Next, we have Alan Swanson. If I had that right? Are you there?
Yes, you have that right.
Go ahead. Address, please.
I live in New Providence. I am the chairman of the Union County Sierra Club, the conservation chair for the Lowentaka group, which represents Morris and Union counties. This issue was brought up to us to provide an opinion. Earlier this evening, the Lowentaka group executive board met and discussed this issue and looked at some of the information that I had looked into and voted unanimously in opposition to the idea of using this park as a adopting the plan from Jorba for bike paths. Some of the ecological reasons have been mentioned, so I'm not going to take up your time with that. I would like to just mention that in my research on this, once I was asked to take a look at it, I looked at the Jorba webpage and looked at the parks that they maintain at this time. There were 16 of the approximately 18 to 19 parks that had adequate data to look at. The park acreages ranged for those parks that have bike paths.
Hey, Mr. Swanson, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want you, as a non-resident, you have 3 minutes. So I just want to make sure you understood what your time limitation is.
I'll be done in 30 seconds.
Okay.
Thank you. The largest of the parks that have bike paths was over 34,000 acres. This is in New Jersey. The smallest was 590 acres. The average number of acres per mile of bike path, of any path, not just bike paths, of any path, was 280 acres per mile of path. The notion that you could take a 44-acre park that is currently considered a nature park and put in between a 1 and 2 mile bike path is quite absurd, given the figures that Jorba has provided on their website for the average acreage per mile of any trail, not just bike trails in those parks. So the number of bike trails are actually lower in some of those parks.
Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you very much for
comment.
the time.
Thank you. Okay, we have Dylan Patel made it back. Hello, Dylan. Give your address again.
Good evening again. My name is Dylan Patel and my address is 101 Surrey Lane. I wanted to compliment council members from Ward 4 for their work in the Tamacos Park in the last few weeks. Specifically, Councilman Katz and Councilman Contract helped with painting the tennis wall in Tamacos Park. Additionally, the pavilion in Tamacos Park was completely renovated by Councilwoman Mackey with a new roof, a new paint job, new tables, and renovated area. Tamacos Park looks great. Thank you for beautifying Ward 4.
Thank you, Dylan.
Thanks, Dylan.
Next, we have the fact of the matter. Are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, name and address, please.
Greg Casco, 434 Everson Place. Good evening, Mayor, Town Council. I was unaware until that last gentleman spoke about the renovations that were done in Tamacos Park. I'm just sitting here wondering why a councilwoman was tasked with something that I believe our Department of Public Works should be doing, but I won't get involved any further with that because, like I said, I just learned about that tonight by that last caller. I called in tonight for 2 specific reasons. Number one, I've been attending town council meetings for the last 10 years, since 2010. And back in 2011, 2012, and 2013, I had advocated on behalf of a woman that lives on Central Avenue named Adina Nkolescu. She had the hawk light placed in front of her home. And along with Maria Carluccio, her neighbor across the street, the 3 of us had asked town council members How would you feel if that light was put in front of your house? All the research that I had done over the course of several years, it had been revealed that a light was supposed to be placed at the corner of Clover and Central. But getting back to that question that was asked numerous times to those sitting council members, how would you feel if that light was put in front of your house? Not one of them would answer. Not one of them. So I find it somewhat hypocritical tonight that a sitting councilman would ask his fellow council members, are they going to designate their house historical? I don't think anyone on this town council owes any of us an answer to that question. Secondly, in all the years that I've been going to town council meetings, there were very few people sitting in council chambers, 2010, 12, 14. Over the past few years, it seems as though the attendance has grown. Mayor Brindle was sworn in. Other council members, new council members were sworn in. And there seems to be more of an interest in town council meetings now as opposed to back then, for whatever reason. For anyone to say that votes such as the ordinance that was voted on tonight regarding historical homes should be postponed until in-person meetings can be had, I think we need to understand the world we're living in. Government has to continue to work. And under the circumstances that we are all living in, this new reality with the virus and everything else going on, this is the way of the future. Zoom meetings, teleconferencing. I am so grateful that I am able to sit here and tune in. I'm grateful that I'm able to raise my hand and tune in. It's fortunate for people like Mr. Blancato to have his daughter be able to assist him in tuning in tonight. We are dealing with something that is unprecedented, and we have to continue to move forward. And if it means having votes via Zoom, if it means people speaking during open public comment via Zoom, then that's the way it has to be. We cannot expect our government to just sit still and stall. Look what we're doing with schools. Our kids have to go to school. We've adapted. Just like we've adapted with schools, with restaurants, with business, we are adapting with government. I appreciate all the work that you all do. I thank you for the time you've given me here tonight to speak. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Next we have Phil Round. Phil, are you there? Name and address. Okay,
Yes.
Phil.
Yeah. Hi, and thanks for listening to me this evening. I live in Westfield for 35 years, live on West Dudley Avenue, 240 West Dudley Avenue. I agree with a lot of what was said earlier by a number of the people who are against the biking proposal for Brightwood Park. And I, like many other residents, are perplexed by the survey that the town paid a lot of money to get done, that says 70% of the people, in fact, on several of the tables that I've read in that report, I think it's tables 14, I've got the numbers here, 14.13, 14, 15, 16. It's clear that the highest priority for the residents in all of those surveys is hiking trails and nature walks. And so I think we're all perplexed as to why the town now, well, first of all, the first question is, what is the town doing to support that demand for the most important, highest priority that came out of the survey? So that's the first question I had. The second is why now is the town considering a bike proposal from Jorba or from anyone else for mountain biking in a park like Brightwood Park, when it would detract from the number one priority for the hikers and the nature watchers. And it's fundamental that mountain biking and the goals of mountain bikers is totally opposed to the goals of the peaceful hikers and walkers and joggers that use that park. And I know people have said it's an underutilized park, but there's a tremendous number of people who go there, have a peaceful, quiet walk, don't make any noise, and maybe you don't see them, but they're there. And there's nobody that is restricting access to that park from anybody else in Westfield. And the bikers have been allowed there on designated trails. But what is happening in recent months as a result of this interest in mountain biking is a lot of illegal trails have been created, which are dangerous. Clearly, even Jorba admits that they are dangerous trails. But if you go to Watchung, where Watchung rejected biking trails a couple of years ago, mountain bikers have been there ever since, creating their own illegal trails and using those trails. And the same, I can't say that they're the same mountain bikers, but other mountain bikers, maybe not even Jorba members, have now created illegal trails in Brightwood. And Jorba's coming along and say, we'll close down those trails and we'll open some and create some new ones, some better ones. So it's like as though you've been mugged once and now the mugger comes along to you and says, hey guys, we'll stop you from being mugged in future by creating a new trail in Brightwood. And they will maintain the trails. There's no history that they would maintain and close these old trails down. And they promise they'll do that, but they're going to do it by dumping other trees and branches into those illegal trails to block them off. The other bikers will just come and open them up just like they do in Watchung and have been doing so far in Brightwood. So I don't believe that the Jorba organization will do that, despite what they say. If you look at any of the videos of mountain biking, the speed they go at and the way they damage the environment is totally incompatible with the requirements and the goals of the hikers and the joggers and the dog walkers and the family groups that currently use Brightwood Park. So that's one concern I have. Linda Habgood very nicely set up these meetings for informational services, but Jorba seemed to take over those meetings and guided the tours around the places they wanted people to see and avoid the places they did want people to see. But I have a question. In fact, she set up I sent 23 questions in, and I'm still waiting for the first answer to any of those 23 questions, or even be able to see who else wrote any other questions, or if there are any answers to any of those questions. So that's the second question I have. The other question is what is the town doing to support hiking, which is the number one priority? They should be focusing on that rather than the low priority mountain biking proposal that will detract from the number one priority, which is the hiking requirement. The other question I have is how many of the council members are actually mountain bikers? Because at least one or two of them would appear to be significantly interested in mountain biking, because if they are Jorba members or mountain bikers, they should probably recluse themselves from making a vote on this particular issue. Because the question that keeps being asked is, why is mountain biking suddenly become an important issue in this whole town? Because it was a low priority, something like 18% as opposed to 70% in the survey. And it was equivalent, I think, to an ice skating rink. It doesn't make sense that we're spending so much time to put a bike route in a small park like Brightwood Park that will detract from the main priority of most residents in the town. So that's the second question, or two of the questions. And then the other thing is, if the town is supporting this because it's a free, easy thing to do and it's going to cost nothing, then I think you need to really think seriously about what the genuine cost is, because you will lose the ability for a lot of the hikers to peacefully use that park. And that's a very significant loss to the town, to the quality and the character of the town that Shelley, you said you would like to support. There's a historic view of Brightwood Park. And a couple of people that came to some of the meetings actually expressed how it used to be home to a number of communities there that the town got rid of. And there's a lot of history there in that park. And I would actually propose that the town looks at it as a site for historic preservation rather than putting a mountain bike site in there. The other point that's recently been brought to my attention is that the Union County does not allow mountain biking in any Union County park. And you wonder why, and you can check their website to confirm that. But you wonder why now Westfield is looking to put a biking trail, a mountain biking trail, in its small, natural, the unique park within Westfield, when Union County itself does not allow mountain biking in any of its parks. So that's a good question. I think we need an answer to. I think I'm coming to the end of my questions here. Yeah, I think I've pretty much covered everything. So thank you for my time, and I hope you take it seriously. There's a lot of residents who do not want to see mountain biking ruining that park. So there you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. We have Murray Topolo. Murray? Are you there, Murray? Murray, are you there? Go ahead, Murray. Go ahead, Murray. Murray, can you hear us? We'll come back to you, Murray. We have Kate. Kate, are you there? Kate? Kate? Kate, go ahead. You can unmute yourself. All right, Kate, we're gonna come back to you. Murray, we'll go back to you. Are you there, Murray?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Murray, go ahead. Name
Okay.
and address.
Murray Topolo, 355 Arenda Circle.
Okay.
I'd like to start by saying that I'm 14, going to 9th grade at the high school, and I love to ride my bike, especially while we've had to quarantine. I've been riding just about every day, and I go to Brightwood pretty often. And there's numerous hikers, and a common misconception that I see is that Jorba is coming to build these trails. They're a special interest group, which is absolutely true for mountain bikers. And the reason that it's beneficial for Jorba to build the trails is because that's what they do. They know how to build it correctly without ruining any of the land and creating proper drainage to not disrupt any of the other wetlands. And the wetlands are avoided because you don't want to ride through them. You're easily able to also walk on the trails. I was riding over the weekend at a mountain bike park where there were numerous more hikers than there were bikers. And there were nothing but positive interactions because all bikers have to yield to hikers. If you see someone walking, you move to the side, allow them to pass, and you can continue. Another reason I love to ride is simply to be in nature. It's one of the great things about riding is being outside, and it's part of the reason me and a lot of riders ride. When we ride, I see lots of animals, and no trees are cut down to make the trails. You a lot of times use the trees as features for the trails. I've seen, for example, turtle, snake,
Cutting out. Murray.
Are you cutting out, Murray?
Still there, Murray?
Yeah. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah,
I
yep.
can.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Murray.
Go ahead, Murray. We're losing you at some point here.
Oh, okay. Okay. So when I'm in these parks, I had during these interactions, I've seen groups of hikers, and there's challenging sections of the trails where we get to the top and they actually cheer, and It's fun interactions. There's nothing negative that ever goes on between bikers and hikers. And another thing that I don't think people really understand is that you right now you're able to bike in Wrightwood, and by putting more of these trails, they would simply be more challenging for kids, because that's the real goal of putting these trails. It's not for other adults, it's for kids. And the reason that these other illegal trails are currently being built, which were actually being built before mountain biking arose as an idea in Wrightwood, was because kids wanted to be challenged more and to have more trails, especially now that we can't go as many places and things are closed. It's important for kids to be outside. Many kids have picked up biking, and it would be a great spot near town that everybody would be able to go. If many people have also said that they think the trails would be too narrow, 2 to 3 feet, and they should be 4 to 6. You're easily able to hike in a trail that's 2 to 3 feet. If your feet are wider than that, I'm not really sure. I've never seen that, so that doesn't seem like an issue to me. While it could be dangerous with riders and hikers, you obviously have to make yourself aware of others on the trail, and you can't just ride blind. So while being aware, you can step to the side, whoever's behind. It's more common sense. People aren't going to be blasting through and not stop if they see somebody. You have to be safe. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Murray.
Thank you, Murray. Well said, Murray.
Thanks for all your help with the Caught Wearing Your Helmet program and your great videos about bike safety.
Kate, are you there, Kate?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah, name and address, please.
My name's Kate Brown. I live at 41 Sunnywood Drive in Westfield.
Okay, go ahead.
And there's a couple things I'd like to address. First, I'd like to commend Murray, our last speaker, and I have no doubt that he is a responsible bike owner and bike rider. But I know we've shared with many of you the Strata website, which is where the Westfield children post the fastest times they get going around Brightwood Park on the illegal trail, and they range from 10 to 17 miles per hour. On the point about the standards, we don't make up the 2-foot, 6-foot standard. As Denise mentioned, that comes from the American Society of Engineers. It comes from the bike safety groups. The park is simply not big enough, as Mr. Swanson from the Sierra Club noted, to accommodate a bike trail. The other issue is nothing in life is free. And the liability associated with mountain biking will not be with JOBA. That's with the town. We've sent many of you medical journals explaining 500,000 people go to the emergency room every year because of bikes hitting pedestrians or bikers getting injured. One of the big reasons mountain bikes were not allowed in the Watchung Reservation was the liability insurance issues. And the wrongful death lawsuit that's currently pending against Montclair and Cedar Ridge, involving a father of 3 who died on a mountain bike trail. And a lot of you are going to say, oh, that's okay. That's why the town buys insurance. I'm in the insurance industry. I can assure you, you can get insurance, but it will cost us, the taxpayers. So will enforcing the helmet laws. There is a reason, and I'm sorry that JOBA residents have to travel to ride their mountain bikes, but there's a reason. It's a liability nightmare. We're also just asking the town not to rush through this. The optics are horrible. The perception is JOBA invited itself to a Recreation Commission meeting, made a presentation, and got the commission to agree to this without hearing or getting input from anyone else. The town has already been through the hockey rink debacle and the historic preservation battles. Take your time. You're creating the perception that you sold out to get a free park because we have members of the council and residents who are members of JOBA who want a bike path. Don't rush through this. There's no need for it. Take your time and hear from the Sierra Club. Hear from Marvin Palmer, the African-American resident who described at the information meetings how much that park means to the African-American community. We've reached out to the Historic Preservation Commission asking them, now that we've sent you Mr. Palmer's interview, and now that you have the material, what are we doing about designating and remembering the significance?
Kate, we
God.
lost. I guess you got cut off, Kate. If you can call back in, feel free. In the meantime, we'll take the next person, Robert Lombard. Mr. Lombard, are you there?
Yes, this is Rob Lombard.
Good.
I
Address?
live at 267 Seneca Place in Westfield. I've lived in Westfield for nearly 40 years. I've raised my 3 children here. I'm now retired here. I live 4 blocks from Brightwood Park and have used the park regularly for walking, even more now in retirement. Brightwood Park was conceived as a natural passive park. Great credit is due to Noel Taylor, a teacher at Westfield High School, for capturing the park's natural beauty so eloquently in his book. It is through Noel Taylor's vision and through actions by Westfield's municipal leaders over the past 50 years that this walk in the woods still today makes Brightwood Park so special. In this 300th year of our township's existence, and with all of your efforts to conserve our historic buildings in the town, I'm asking you to embrace the history and the legacy of Brightwood Park. I've first learned about the interest in developing mountain bike trails in Brightwood Park in February this year, and it attended the park's master plan presentation to the council. I have learned that the Recreation Commission is entertaining the proposal from JORBA, the Jersey Off-Road Biking Association, to transform 1.1 miles of nature trails, which were constructed by a grant from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection in 2004. The state announcement for the grant was for $20,000, which was matched by township funds, specifically references its purpose as the Brightwood Park Nature Trail. And it is these same trails which JORBA has expressed its desire to convert to a 2-mile bike trail. I attended both of the information sessions held at the park in mid-August. Unfortunately, my concern has only been elevated by listening to the representatives of JORBA describe their proposed 2 miles of trails, nearly twice the amount of trails that were constructed in 2004, as multi-use trails. I can find nowhere a definition of multi-use trails that fits the trails described by JORBA's representatives, i.e. a trail that's 2 to 3 feet wide. And I think practically speaking, the question is very simple. How can the walking users of Brightwood Park use the same 2 to 3 foot wide trail that it will be used by mountain bikers? I do not oppose mountain biking. I don't think any of us do, but we should not sacrifice the nature trails of Brightwood Park to meet their needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lombard.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to be heard? We have Suzanne. Are you there, Suzanne? Name and address?
Hi, yes, my name is Suzanne Pinto and I live at 1320 Prospect Street.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
First of all, I would like to thank you for allowing all of us this platform to share our thoughts and ideas. I know it's late and many of you look like you're getting a little glazed over, but I would ask for your kind attention. I implore you all to do your due diligence in considering this proposal. Once Brightwood is gone, it will be gone. Make no mistake about that. Councilman Parmalee spoke very succinctly about preserving the character of Westfield with regards to its historical homes. Mayor Brindle, you referred to Westfield as an amazingly historical town as well. Well, that confuses me, quite honestly. How then are you and the council willing to even consider destroying the one historical nature preserve that we have in Brightwood? You talk about character of a town. How are you willing to go against a decision that was mindfully considered by this town's mayor and council people to celebrate Noel Taylor, his mission to bring nature and man together? This is quite an ironic juxtapose. My husband and I were recently walking through the park, if you'll indulge me, on the Fanwood Avenue side, and we saw a most beautiful fox cross our path. He was going into the exact area that Jorba would like to designate to the mountain bike trail. He will no longer exist along with many of the other animals, plants, and fauna that exist in that area. I would like to address the woman who spoke a few people before me, stating that the new trails would be designated over existing trails. That is not the case, according to the map or according to Jorba. The mountain bike course will impose on the nature preserved lands. This is not an underutilized park. It is as it should be. It definitely needs attention. Let's put our attention on preserving the natural state of Brightwood rather than break it down. This is both a historical incentive and it demonstrates town character. You talk about tearing things down. Why don't we build this up? Thank you so much for your time and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Suzanne. Anyone else like to be heard? Seeing none, Mayor, I think you can close the public portion. You're on mute, Mayor.
All right, I close this portion of the public meeting. Let's see, so we will move on to bills and claims.
Mayor, I would be happy to, but I was wondering if you would allow me to address some of the comments about Brightwood Park.
Yeah,
Would
absolutely.
that be okay?
Mhm.
I think enough people came to the mic tonight that it deserves, a few comments. And I also encourage Councilman Katz to make a few if he would like to as well, since he is our liaison to the Rec Commission. I tried to take some notes as people were going through and making comments tonight. And we also, Brad Rothenberg at the beginning of this meeting tonight also addressed a number of things that are happening across our parks. But I think it's important for everyone who's still listening at 11 o'clock at night to understand the genesis of the meetings that we had in Brightwood Park. I actually suggested that we have the meetings because I thought it was very important that the public be aware of the things that were being considered for all of the parks. So we're inviting people's participation and we're inviting people to give their opinions. I have been heavily criticized for the fact that Jorba was also invited to be part of those meetings to talk about the past. So I'd like to take a couple of minutes to explain that. It comes from the fact that we are now at a phase as a council to take forward the recommendations of an expert who is hired by our town to look at our parks and recommend a master plan that would take into account all of the things that people like to do recreationally in the town and see if we can meet them. One of them, prioritized by the Rec Commission, was to consider putting a bike path into Brightwood Park. Jorba has offered up its opinion about what that would look like and how it would work because they are an organization that could do that for us for free. We are not in the pocket of a special interest group who is somehow going to take over the park. I want to make that extremely clear. If anything is done in the park, it will continue to be managed by the town of Westfield. Where we are right now in the process is that we are putting together an application to go to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection to ask them for a letter of interpretation as it relates to the park and any areas in it that need to be protected, or anything that we need to be aware of as we would take steps forward in the park. That application is being prepared now with the help of Chris McAloon and a lot of others in town. And I don't know how long it will take us to get that information back, but we will take that into account. We have been already in discussions with Green Acres about the park. We have already been in touch with the Joint Insurance Fund to inquire about the insurance issues that were raised at the meeting. So we are very, very much staying abreast of all the questions that have come in from all of the people who sent notes to brightwood@westfieldnj.gov. And those questions will be answered as soon as we have a chance to make sure that they're accurate. And then they will be put up on the town website so that people are aware of what's being considered and what the answers to questions are. I don't think that it's particularly fair to be accusatory of anyone on this council who's really looking to make sure that the ideas that are being presented by consultants are presented to the public and the public's opinions are heard. So I will repeat what I repeated in the park, that no decisions have been made. We're looking for town input, and we are looking to organizations in the state of New Jersey that can help us to achieve the ends that the master planner recommended to us. One very nice thing that's come out of this process is, I think more than ever, people are aware of what Brightwood Park is and its history, because the idea of making some improvements to the park has sparked a lot of interest. There were hundreds of people who came to the 2 meetings that we had in the park at the end of August. And and there's a group that has now started called the Friends of Brightwood, who is starting and inviting people to do work in the park. So I encourage anyone who wants to go and clean up the park or look at ways that we can address the invasives, to be in touch with me, and I would be happy to give information, because I think while we're waiting for the information to come back from the state, it would be terrific if people would show up, clean up the trash in the park, and think about ways that we can make the park better. Because at the end of the day, that is what we are absolutely trying to do: preserve the park and make it better. Scott, I don't know whether there's anything else that you would like to add.
Linda, I don't think there is much to add to it. I just want to maybe say that they are multi-use trails in the sense that they are there for biking and for hiking, not necessarily at the same time in the same trail, but bikers, of course, would have to yield to hikers in the trails. And I do like to mountain bike. I'm not an expert mountain biker, but I also like to play football and basketball and baseball. So I don't know if that would make me have to recuse myself for any vote regarding Edison or any other park plan we have. I do think Brightwood is an underused park. I think a lot of people don't quite know where Brightwood is, but it's up Prospect, and it's a great park. And I think more people should utilize it. I think people from the rest of the town should go out there and just take a look and see some of the beauty of Brightwood. But right now, what we're talking about is not building any structures. Just to be very clear, we're not building structures. We're not putting concrete. The only thing we would do is move some dirt around so that we can make trails that would be safer for the kids to ride, as opposed to making these road trails that are less safe. So I think at the end of the day, really what we're talking about is just sort of shaping the earth a little bit to make it a little more safe for our children to ride their bikes on. But thank you very much, Councilwoman.
Can I just mention a few things just on this topic? One is I just want to reiterate what Councilwoman Hapgood said. There is a park cleanup plan that the Green Team's sponsoring October 11th. So for folks who are really concerned about Brightwood, that's a great way to demonstrate it. Volunteering information will be available in the next few days through Sign Up Genius. We'd love to see a lot of people out there helping to clean up the park. There is a fair amount of trash, which is a shame. The second thing is, as the liaison to the Green Team, I think it's helpful for the public to know The Green Team will be presenting. It has talked to some ecology experts about the forest in Brightwood, and they'll be presenting their findings to the Recreation Commission this coming Monday night, and that information will be made public. To just advance the conversation, I think one of the speakers tonight talked about that. So that effort's going on, you know, and it's part of will become part of the public discourse about this. And the third is, and I think because of the greater interest in Brightwood, you know, the Public Works Commission, as we put together a capital budget with the rest of the council, I hope we can do something about the deer. You know, we started last year with the deer management program. It's very clear that the invasive species issue is very directly related to the overpopulation of deer in this park. And we need to continue taking steps to mitigate that, both through the deer management program that we started, as well as potentially some capital improvements like fencing and cattle grates. So that is top of mind. And I appreciate everybody's interest in Brightwood Park to hopefully push some of those things closer to the top of the list.
David, I will say I've heard from several Green Team members who are against the development of the park, and they feel like their voices are not being heard. So just wanted to let you know.
I don't think that's accurate, but thanks for sharing.
No, I'll tell you.
Thank you.
I mean,
I will just close this out about Brightwood.
Can I just say a few words,
Mayor.
Mayor, if I may?
Sure, Councilman, short and sweet.
I'll try to make it short and sweet. With regard to Councilman LaGrippo's comments, untrue. The Green Team has been very involved in this, and their input is vital to any parks recommendation, and I think that they continue to be so. And Councilman LaGrippo and I sat on the steering committee for the Parks Master Plan, and we, along with a number of other folks, approved all of these considerations that we're talking about today.
Hey, Michael, we didn't approve anything. We listened. So be careful what you say.
Organization recommendations and moving forward with whatever the state does hand down.
So if we can just, thank you. And I mean, obviously there's plenty more conversation to have about Brightwood. Until you even get all the information back from the state, we have no idea. We could be arguing about nothing. So I think it's important to just make sure that we get all the facts available to us. I think the good thing is that everybody should know this. We are all operating from the same place and the same objectives. What do we all want to do? We want to save and preserve Brightwood. What we're disagreeing about is how we go about doing that. But I don't think there's anybody here that says they want to do anything but preserve the park. And so, and I think these debates about how to go about doing that are good ones. And I'm thrilled that there's now a Friends of Brightwood. I'm thrilled that there are people paying attention to it. And I think, and by the way, I have pulled every single article that's written about Brightwood since 1961. I've got a copy of Noel Taylor's book in my office. Everybody talks about that Brightwood started with Noel Taylor. Brightwood started in 1961, and it was actually started with the dislocation of 12 African-American families in a neighborhood called the Big Woods. And you're absolutely right, the people that we're talking about, we need to be talking about that. I've already got someone researching into what happened to those families. So, and in 1961, when the town purchased the property, it was designated half for recreation. So this notion that it was always designated a passive park is not true. And that did come out with Noel Taylor, but it's important to understand the true history of the park. And I'll be honest with you, the true history of Brightwood Park from 1960 was not great. It was not great. And I think we have an obligation to the families that we dislocated to actually and formally recognize their contributions to the town and to the park before that. And that should absolutely be a conversation of anything about Brightwood Park and part of its preservation. And whether that's biking trails or other things, but I will say, I will never forget what someone said. The only time I had been in Brightwood Park, and I've lived here for 26 years, was after I lived here for 23 years, when I led a group of kids in there to clean up the park. And all we did was haul out bags and bags and bags of glass and garbage. And that's horrific. It's horrific that that park has not been invested in adequately. So the fact that now the invasive species are so bad that you'd have to spend millions of dollars to get it back to what Noel Taylor actually envisioned it to be. And what I heard from this consultant, which really resonate with me, a well-used park is a well-maintained park. And that might seem counterintuitive, but it's true. There's a lack of accountability of behavior when there aren't enough people in the park. And to me, that is part of the problem in Brightwood. So collectively, as a community, we all want the same thing. We're just disagreeing about the best way to go about it. So let's wait till we get all the information. Let's wait until we get the DEP. Let's start from a place that we all want to preserve it. And then we can have a real conversation based upon the facts. So with that, can we move on to the bills and claims, Councilwoman Hapgood?
With pleasure, Mayor. I'd like to move bills and claims in the amount of $913,968.62.
Yes.
Second contract.
Where are we? So,
Second.
Yes, second. Thank you. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried.
Next on the agenda, and now I'm reading your lines, Mayor. We're all doing
Reports of standing committees, beginning with finance. Councilwoman Hapgood.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 15 resolutions, 14 of which I'd like to move as a package. A resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for unused parking permit fee. A resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for dog licenses for August 2020. A resolution authorizing the CFO for a refund of dumpster security payment. A resolution authorizing the CFO to refund recreation department fees. A resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for overpaid taxes in 2020. A resolution authorizing the CFO to draw warrants for 2019 pursuant to the Tax Code of New Jersey. A resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for construction permit fees. A resolution to approve insertion of a special item of revenue in the municipal budget on the federal Bulletproof Vest Partnership Program. A resolution authorizing the submission of an application for the Greening Union County Grant Program. A resolution authorizing submission of an application for the Kids Recreation Grant Program. A resolution authorizing an amendment to contract awarded for the purchase of playground equipment. A resolution authorizing award of a contract for the crossing guard management services. A resolution authorizing the CFO to amend the change fund, and a resolution authorizing an increase for procurement cards.
May I have a second?
Second contract.
Any discussion?
I'll be voting no on the item number 12, the crossing guard resolution. I heard from a crossing guard today who had serious concerns about the way the program is being run and going back to school as far as assignments and where people will be. So I don't know, Jim, could you shed some more light on the program? Because I haven't heard anything as far as since school ended where we left off with the crossing guard program.
Well, obviously, the council adopts this tonight. We're back with ACMS. I know the police are very happy with that. And yes, due to the pandemic, due to the change in the school schedule, we had to restructure the program a bit with recruitment, retention, and of course with the schedule change, which is unlike any school year before. There's so much uncertainty. It doesn't surprise me that some members might not want to come back or have concerns, but we are obviously expecting ACMS to have the guards out in the field on Thursday morning for school. As a matter of fact, they've already had them out there today for Holy Trinity School, which started today. I know the police department is actually very eager to assist where we can, but this is a good thing for the town. As you said last year, the police department was not able to manage this program, and it took away from their opportunity to perform regular police services. This is why we did it. And we really have to make sure this is successful, not just for the police department, but for the long-term health of the crossing guard program. Something people value in this town, and we want to make sure we continue it. But there was restructuring this year, and we're still waiting to see how that all plays out starting Thursday, frankly.
So are we reducing the number of posts, or that hasn't been decided as of yet?
Yeah, there are some posts to reduce as the finance committee, discussed earlier this year. And there's also reassignments. There's changing of some hours, both up and down on various posts. But again, the pandemic has changed everything. The schedule of coming in the morning and coming back in the afternoon at 3 o'clock is no longer the case. So we've had people that are concerned, rightfully so. But you're working from 7 to 9 in the morning, and again from 11 to 1, which is like a half day. But now every day is a half day. So there's a lot of uncertainty and changes with this. But we're really trying to support ACMS to get this up and running this year. And just a reminder, when the schools closed in March this year, the way our contract is structured, we do not pay when the crossing guards don't work. So obviously we wanted them to work. No one wanted the schools to close. But of course, the way the contract's set up, we obviously were realizing some savings this year, obviously, which we were able to take advantage of in the budget. But we want this program to work, and we're excited for Thursday morning and tomorrow morning with Holy Trinity School again, but Thursday morning to have the program going.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jim.
Allison, I'm just curious, if you don't support this program, what are you suggesting in lieu of?
I'd like to see, my mom was a crossing guard. The town, this was in the 80s, never had a problem staffing crossing guards. And honestly, with the current situation, I think you would get a lot of people to fill that position. Last year, I don't think we ever got to the point where the company was able to fill all the posts. And up until March or April, the police was still doing crossing guard assignments. And when I hear it directly from a crossing guard today who sought me out to give their opinion of last year and leading up to school, as far as there seems to be no communication. And my wife and I both work, and I have 2 kids that walk to Edison. So obviously it's a concern for me. And honestly, I don't think the program or the company fulfilled their obligations last year from what I could see. So I'll be voting no.
So Chief Badalora, would you mind just chiming in on your perspective of the crossing guard program and on how you think this is being rolled out?
And from a financial perspective, Mayor, I'd like to add something at the end after the chief.
Sure.
Well, I believe we spent over 550,000 this year on the crossing guard program.
Can we let Chief Badalora weigh in first, please?
Yeah, Chief.
Are you guys okay? I was having a problem getting unmuted. First of all, I would tell you the program is being run probably better now than it's ever been run. We simply did not have the time or the manpower to devote to the size of the program to give the attention that it deserved without taking us away from more vital police responsibilities. ACMS certainly fulfilled its requirements. It took them a period of time to get going, but I would say shortly after January, around February, they were fully staffed, and we were not covering any posts during the year, except in cases of an emergency. So I'm very pleased with the job ACMS has done. They've certainly done a better job than we could have with the resources that we presently have available.
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
Councilor Hapgood?
And I would also like to say, from a financial perspective, the way the contract is structured, it's very advantageous to us as a town. We did a full analysis before we entertained the contract from ACMS to really understand what all of the costs were that were being incurred for the actual crossing guard staff, and on an all-in basis, as well as all the police time that was being spent to cover posts and to manage our in-house crossing guard program. But when we had to shut down the schools in March, we actually were able to not have to pay out, to ACMS for the rest of the year. So we actually realized $175,000 of savings, from the months that the crossing guards weren't there. So it's not, even though we budget at the beginning of the year for what we expect the cost to be, we're not committed to pay for services that they're not providing. You know, this is definitely an advantageous program in terms of cost effectiveness, and to address Councilman LaGrippo's, you know, comment about giving people an opportunity to be crossing guards in our town. There's absolutely an opportunity. ACMS would love and needs to hire local people to help on those posts. So, and they get, you know, they received unemployment benefits when they didn't work post-March. And as the chief mentions, it's, you know, we're very pleased with the program.
Yeah, I just feel there's too much stress on the financials than the safety of the children. I mean, for example, last year there was a crossing guard in a lounge chair and a little table every day. I mean, that doesn't give me the warm fuzzy that kids are being crossing adequately. But that's my opinion. So, I mean, I'm voting no, but thank you.
So, I mean, I appreciate that concern. I just would like to think in matters like this, we would also rely on the professional judgment of our town professionals like our chief. So appreciate that you've heard comments from one crossing guard, but I'm pretty proud of, you know, our town administrator and our police chief in terms of the expertise that they weigh in on. So with that.
Just to mention, Mayor, just one last thing to mention. We're going to hear more comments, probably from crossing guards and the public. This is an unprecedented school year starting Thursday for the Westfield school system. No one knows what's going to happen with the crossing guards. We have less kids going to school at one time, so half the kids going half the days of the week. So no one knows what to expect. But ACMS is the best equipped at this time to do this. And one last thing to remember, the crossing guards benefited from us outsourcing the program. They got an increase in hourly rate. They had some sick days or snow days restored. They did benefit, and some were still unhappy with that. We heard about that last year as well. That's going to happen when there's change. It's going to make some people unhappy. We understand that, but our goal is to keep the program going, keeping it, you know, as vibrant as possible, and making sure that we produce, you know, crossing guards at the most, you know, critical locations, which we're expecting to do, and this will actually let us do that.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. So where were we on the vote, I should
You
say?
just needed to vote on.
We have to vote.
Yeah. So okay. So we were on the.
Mr. LaGrippo was voting no on that.
Yes, all in favor.
Yes.
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 Oppose.
Just me on item number 12.
Yeah. So this motion is carried.
And I'd also like to move a resolution confirming compliance with the local finance board rules regarding recommendations of the annual audit.
May I have a second?
Second contract.
Parmalee beat you to it, David.
Sorry.
I got a peace sign.
Guys, just say one thing here. Again, this is, it's usually a formality every year. We've been very fortunate. I just want to thank Scott Olson and all the department heads and the staff. You know, a clean audit doesn't happen by accident. And this is a number of years in a row. So you have Chris, you have the two chiefs on this call, you have Don Samet, but all the other department heads and the financial staff, that this is no small undertaking. Of course, there are things we have to look at every single year, but Councilman Habgood, as the chair of the finance committee, has, you know, made a point to come in and pick up the audit herself to review it. It's another very positive year, 2019, and it just shows, again, financial management is going very, very well for the town, despite all the things we're challenged with and faced with. So thank you very much.
And well done to you too, Jim, and to Scott. So thank you. So please call the roll.
Councilwoman Habgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee, Councilman LaGrippo,
Yes.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion has carried. Councilman Dardia, please move Public Safety, Transportation, and Parking Committee resolution.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move a resolution authorizing shared lane markings on various streets. And this
May I have
is the proof
Yes.
of concept bike lane project.
May I have a second?
Second, Katz.
A second by Katz, I think. Any discussion?
I just want to know, have the residents been notified of the streets that we're going to mark?
There's only one street mark that's in this resolution to mark as a shared lane. But no, nothing's happened yet until the council adopts this tonight. Once you adopt it, if that's what happens tonight, then we would let the residents know. But this is a shared marked lane. The lane already exists today. All we're doing is marking what exists.
Okay.
This is made basically a shared lane. As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, there's a pop-up bike lane happening October 3rd, 4th that would complement this lane, which would be a little different type of a lane. But this shared marking lane is something that exists already by law today. All we're gonna be doing is marking it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jim.
I have a
Yeah,
second.
and I just want to let Councilman LaGripa, the Green Team is leading resident feedback meetings on the pop-up bike lane if it gets approved tonight.
Okay. And right now, there's no further discussion at Boulevard and Summit at this time, correct?
No, the pop-up bike lane is going to be on Dudley, down to East Broad, as Jim outlined earlier.
Okay.
The Boulevard Summit is basically pending grant application with the state of New Jersey.
So that was seconded by Councilman Contract. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried. Next is the Code Review and Town Property Committee. Councilwoman Mackey. You muted? She needs to be unmuted.
Can you talk now, Dawn? Go ahead.
Come on, Dawn.
Oh, here we go.
Mute her, Jim. I don't know. She's still muted.
I'm muting it. I already did.
All right, now, Dawn.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I have 4 resolutions that I would like to move as a package. First, a resolution endorsing the adoption of green building practices for civic, commercial, and residential buildings. Second, a resolution referring rehabilitation area and study to Planning Board for review. Third, resolution to approve annual renewal of alcoholic beverage liquor licenses. And 4, a resolution authorizing award of contract for event production services at Tamaqua Park Adams Fest Haunted Trail Attraction.
May I have a second?
Second, Dardia.
Seconded by Councilman Dardia. Any discussion?
Just, is any work needed to be done by the DPW for the Adams Fest event? Or is that being done by an outside contractor?
That's what this is for, hiring an outside production company to run this event.
Okay. Yeah, I just try to see if the DPW is going to be put into the mix on that.
I'm sure that the DPW, police, and fire will support whatever needs to be done from a public safety perspective. But this is part of the reason we're outsourcing this event now, so that it can be done by a production company.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried.
Next, I would like to move General Ordinance Number 2189 on first reading. An ordinance to amend the land use ordinance of the town of Westfield, revising the submission requirements for preliminary and final site plan and preliminary and final subdivision applications.
May I have a second?
Second, Boyd.
Second by Councilman Boyce. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee,
Yes.
Councilman LaGripo,
Yes.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
Lastly, I would like to move General Ordinance Number 2190 on first reading. An ordinance of the town of Westfield amending the exterior property maintenance code.
May I have a second?
Second, Dardia.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrepo,
Yes.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion has carried. Next is the Public Works Committee, Councilman Contract.
I have 5 resolutions to move as a package. The first is a resolution authorizing change order number 1 for 2019 various road improvements. Second is a resolution authorizing change order number 1 for 2020 improvement of North Chestnut. Third is a resolution to award a contract for the 2020 leaf collection program. The fourth is a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign the interlocal agreement for leaf collection service with the township of Scotch Plains. And the last one is a resolution to award a contract for the 2020 improvement of Scotch Plains Avenue.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is carried. And last is council as a committee of the whole. May I have a motion to adopt a resolution declaring Friday, September 18th, 2020 is POWMIA Remembrance Day?
So moved.
Motion by Councilor Mackey, second.
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 Second by, who was that? That's, I couldn't see.
LaGrepo.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is carried. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, so moved.
Moved by Councilor LaGrepo, second.
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 All in favor?
Yes.
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 This motion is carried and this late meeting is adjourned. Good night, everybody.
Good
Good night,
night.
guys. Good night.
Bye.
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 Aye.